Call to order the Tuesday, September 27th, 2022 Town Council Committee of the Whole to order at 6:31. Councilors present, all councilors except Councilor McBride, who will not be, Councilor Jones, who will not be here with us, as well as Councilor Parker, who will be late because she's at a TVCCA meeting representing the council. Councilor Bordelon is somewhere in the building, and I expect her here any moment. There she is. Okay. So we have a quorum of 7. Calendar and Communications, Councilor Kassiri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Last night I attended the 3rd Citizen and Police Committee, which was held at the Town of Groton Police Department. The chief and the deputy chief were both in attendance and went over the complaint policies and process in great detail. The deputy went over an overview of the process from the original complaint to the complaint being assigned a complaint number, and then went over the rank of the individuals who would investigate the complaint and determine of whether there's any conflict of interest involved in the complaint. Chair Delacruz asked about a situation in which an individual may not necessarily want to make a complaint, but rather would like questions answered about policy or process. The deputy explained that any individual who would like policy, process, or routine questions answered about any incident can call the Town of Groton Police Department routine number, which will be answered by a telecommunicator, and then you can request to speak with a supervisor and you will be transferred to the shift commander. The deputy explained that they normally receive approximately 1 complaint a month. The deputy also gave an update on the Kalia Accreditation. The evaluation dates are June of 2023 for post and September of 2023 for Kalia. Chief and deputy chief both went over how they're continuously updating their 136 policies so that they are in compliance up to the Kalia Accreditation standards. These are constantly being updated as laws change, policies change, and state standards change. 69 out of 70 sworn positions are now filled within the department, which puts the Town of Groton ahead of many other area departments who are having a hard time finding quality candidates to join the ranks. But 10 of those positions are either in the academy or field training, which will delay these positions to be available for patrol until spring or summer. The chief's goal is to get the community policing position filled by spring or summer. He has assigned an officer to put together a citizen police academy, which may be ready after the first of the year. Citizen police academies are a great tool and resource to educate the public on policing. There will be an event at the Groton Elks on October 14th celebrating the Officer of the Year. This year it is Officer Dan Wilczek, and on October 6th the detectives of the department will be giving an award by the U.S. Attorney's Office for their work in the heinous sexual assault case that they worked diligently on. On October 14th, Chair Delacruz shared that Community Speaks Out will host a trunk or treat event at Washington Park to educate children on fentanyl. Lastly, the Town of Groton Police Department and Thrive 55 are teaming up for Project Lifesaver. They will be distributing bracelet-like devices so that individuals with cognitive impairments can be located with a handheld device. I also received various communications regarding Mystic Education Center, personnel and appointments cancellation notice, short-term rentals, Branford Manor, Citizens and Police Committee, Rules Committee, Dodia World Languages Grant, an email celebrating an employee who helped an injured citizen, an email praising the planting of trees at Thrive 55, and voter registration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Westervelt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Last week, actually, I attended the Groton Sale Monument kickoff, which was an absolutely outstanding event, looking at everything that's going on there and how this is being put out. I think it's going to be a great thing for the Town of Groton. I've also the region, Southeastern Connecticut, also received a ton of emails and communications regarding the Mystic Oral School, as well as Branford Manor, various other emails and communications as well. Thank you.
Councilor Bordelon.
Good. Thank you. I attended 2 city meetings over the last 2 Mondays, spoke in regard, if you live in the city of Groton, there was something passed at the state where the, if you live in the city, most of us sometimes forget that we have elections also in May. And the state made a bill that passed it where towns could make a decision to move their May elections to November. And the city was discussing that over the last meeting. I went out and spoke, and I encourage other people who feel strongly about elections being unified on one time of year in November, where you could vote for your city and your town councilors and any state or local officials all at once. It would not change the tapestry of the city. You would still be electing your folks for city government, but this would allow for us to only have to go out once. Working class folks, people do not have elections days off in the middle of May. And sometimes people feel and forget about that election in May. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to speak up and speak out. I also attended, I received many communications about Branford Manor, about recently Branford Manor having removal of insulation in all the crawl spaces. I drove out myself to witness it during the day on my lunch break and saw bags and bags of debris that they were ripping out from under these crawl spaces while residents were home with their windows open, ACs blowing, ventilation fans blowing in, doors open in some cases, and children outside walking around while men or women, I couldn't tell, with suits were underneath with proper contamination gear on. I was also contacted and told that water was being cut off and folks were not being notified. Folks, you need their water to bathe, shower, cook, make bottles, and yet they did not have access or notice that they were going to be cut off for extended periods of time, or times where it was cut and then they were receiving dirty water that was spitting through, that they had to filter through. Also, while they were underneath those crawl spaces, ripping out that debris, what do you think they found? Mice, rats, actually. Rats. The amount of rats that I'm hearing that people are seeing stirred up because they were living with the residents underneath the floorboards, under the installation. Also, it stirred up a lot of cat feces and urine. Cats like underneath there if they have food, and the food was the rats. So extremely concerned. Folks still living in hotels, still living in moldy conditions, still calling. I got a call from a resident, I didn't get permission to say their name, so I will not, over the weekend, who stated that they were concerned about reporting this for retaliation because she had nowhere else to go. And I encouraged her to speak up and speak out, and said that I will do my part here and speak up on behalf of all of the residents as a former resident of Branford Manor, as a child myself, that she should not be afraid, and she did. Also concerns with lack of communication from Branford Manor, still feeling that their voices are not being heard, and many other complaints that go with Branford Manor. I will not go any further on that because, as you can see, the amount of people here tonight, as well as it is on the agenda item. We must do something, and I will continue to speak up and support each and every one of you. Also received communications regarding Respler, the project and the sale and the contract and what is going to be done there. Concerns about the property and the dealings and the town agreements that we continue to make, like Branford. People are concerned, and that's what I'm hearing. Also had a resident reach out to me on Fishtown Road. He said I could use his name, Jacob. He had a tree that fell, he believes, from the Mystic River school there. He said he reached out to Sam Kirkpatrick. He did update me. He just sent me some pictures of the damage. I will forward these along to everyone. Extensive damage onto his shed. He did report before the meeting that Sam did come out and look at the damage there. I encouraged him to reach out to our Public Works, Sam Kirkpatrick, and the Board of Education, and I will forward this along. And that's all I have as of right now. Thank you.
Councilor Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended, last week, a presentation on the Inflation Reduction Act, passed by our Congress and signed by President Biden, I think about a month and a half ago, learning about its climate provisions and the potential impacts here in our community. Also participated in a forum in the town of Clinton. The Department of Transportation put on, along with the Connecticut Commuter Rail Council, put on a presentation regarding expanding Shoreline East, spoke in favor of extending Shoreline East into Mystic, establishing additional train service, and most importantly, voicing support to build a commuter rail station here in Groton, which is something that many citizens in our town has been working on for the last few years, and would be a significant economic driver here in our community. Also, like Councilor Bordelon, have received no shortage of correspondences with respect to Branford Manor, as we have for the last several months since May. It's still my belief that we must hold related affordable in default of the tax stabilization agreement. It's absolutely inexcusable and quite frankly criminal what has happened. As you can see here, it's a wonderful turnout of folks, but those pictures just obviously show deplorable living conditions. No family should be subjected to them. And we'll continue to stand with you, and so glad that the tenants will have the opportunity to speak tonight, and we can't wait to hear from you all. We also received no shortage of communications regarding the Mystic Oral School. It is absolutely ridiculous that the state of Connecticut is proposing to sell the Mystic Oral School for $1 to Respler. I am vehemently opposed to it, as are a few other councilors that have spoken out already publicly against the sale, but we stand with those who voice their concerns, and will continue to advocate on the council to ensure that we do not engage in any business dealings with Respler Homes. That is also a standing item this evening. It is my hope that we discuss the issue publicly and not in executive session. With that, thank you all for attending, and pass it on to Councilor McBride.
Councilor McBride.
Thank you. I also received all the communication all the other councilors received, so I won't comment on any of that. And I'll save my comments for the two major issues that we have before us tonight for later on when we discuss in more detail. On a good note, I did attend the Fitch football home opener. I assisted the Booster Club, and it was a lot of fun enjoying that, and it was a very profitable day, and it was a great victory for Fitch. So that was some positive notes. Also attended the via Zoom, the Planning and Zoning meeting on the 21st, which was relative to the short-term rentals, some great dialogue and discussion by the P&Z, so that was a very good meeting, and I would encourage everyone to watch that if they have not done so yet. I'm also involved in an FOI matter. Wanted to make everyone aware. Next Thursday, I will be going to a hearing to discuss an FOI matter that's been brought up to this council, so I'll see how that goes. Hopefully it goes well. And also want to report that due to some personal conflicts of committee members, the Property Reuse Committee had to be rescheduled, and the meeting will be next Wednesday, October 5th. Thank you.
Councilor Franco.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Councilor Bordelon.
I also wanted to state that I did attend the last few football games at Fitch. They have another game this Friday. I did address the principal, and I will be following up with an email. I have got a lot of complaints about the deplorable conditions of the restrooms at our facility at Fitch High School. The girls' restroom has 2 bathrooms on the spray-painted concession stand, and when we had a large event, folks were waiting hours. When we go to like events in town for marching band, the facilities are by far better than Groton. And it was a wonderful game, but we need to step it up as far as our facilities and our access. Women and older folks need to use the restroom, and children, and they had to wait for extended periods, and it was quite embarrassing. This issue had come up last year where there was not sanitary conditions with trash cans for disposable women's napkins and tampons, and they did address that. There were no locks on the bathroom door. That was addressed when I brought it up. But again, the deplorable conditions of the bathroom in our facilities as a town, we should be ashamed. Women and children should not have to wait to use the restroom and use less than adequate facilities that were not properly furnished. So those reports will be going forward as well. But with that, I encourage you to come out to the games on Friday and support the Falcons. And let's hope that we can update our facilities because they are behind the times. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to thank everyone for coming out. We have a good turnout, so I feel it's appropriate to again state that our next meeting, which will be the first Tuesday in October 4th, I believe, we will be moving back to the Town Hall Annex. For those familiar with the Town Council, for years, that's where we used to do our meetings. For those unfamiliar, that will be at 134 Groton Long Point Road. It's just across the street from the high school.
Question? That next meeting is a public comment session, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
On to the
Thank you.
approval of minutes. I make a motion to approve the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of September 13th, 2022. So moved.
Westervelt.
Moved by Melendez, seconded by Westervelt. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh. Did you have a
I had
comment?
a comment, just a clarifying
Okay.
question.
Okay, let's get the vote and then I'll,
Okay.
Should we go over the clarification
we're in the
first?
vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Carry 6 in favor, 1 opposed, borderline, 0 abstaining. Councilor McBride?
Yeah, my question was, the special meeting wasn't included, so I'm assuming that would just come on the 4th, the special meeting minutes
Right, of the council.
of council?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
On to new business. DoDEA World Language Advancement and Readiness Program Award.
I'd like to ask for a change for regulation 653, not 692.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
before we begin this, I need to disclose that I am now an employee of Groton Public Schools, and I will be recusing myself from this item as it is financial in matter. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have the superintendent for background on this item.
Good evening, everyone. Is this on? Do you need it, or it's just to record? Okay. I'm Susan Austin, Superintendent of Groton Public Schools, and I'm proud to present our number 6 Department of Defense Education activity has had a World Language Advancement and Readiness Program specifically for world language. Being an international baccalaureate district, we really believe in global mindedness, so hence the name of it is Nurturing Global Mindedness Through World Languages. And the essence of this grant is to provide more opportunity for all of our students, elementary, middle school, and high school, to expand the world languages in bringing down world language into the elementary levels for awareness in a community that is mostly Spanish-speaking out of all the different languages. We really bring in native speakers from all around the world who already have a sense of language and could really be receiving something we call the seal of biliteracy, when they are really proficient in their own language and also in reading and writing. So we have a course called Native Speakers, Native Spanish Speaking, that will help prompt that to support them in the seal of biliteracy. And really, the essence of this grant is to monitor over the next 5 years with the supports that are detailed in the grant to provide more students with that seal of biliteracy. And who knows, if we have all these native speakers, they may be proficient in their own native language, in the English language, and perhaps maybe even another language. So it's very exciting. It's $1 million. Each of the grants have been about $1 million. And we have seen great results. Our first one was in technology. We had one in mathematics, literacy, STEM careers, and now with world language. It really has a lot of professional development. So giving teachers the professional learning tools that they need, supported by an American Council of Teachers of Foreign Language, or ACTFL expert, who will go in and work with teachers. She's already begun some of the work and, during their professional development, but it also has some embedded coaching where you go into the classroom with this expert teacher and the classroom teacher. This is kind of a model we've used in literacy and mathematics and the NGSS science standards, and it's worked really quite well. And it's very sustainable because your teacher leaders then are able, once the grant is gone, to continue nurturing newer teachers who come on board and giving them the professional tools that they might need. It also includes a couple teachers at the elementary level to service all of our schools. While it's always about the research and the data we collect is about the military child, and we've seen in all the grants that our military children, even though they're quite transient and move place to place, they really do as well or better than the majority of the students. But all of them receive these services. Beyond gaining their world language proficiency, we also want to foster deeper understanding and appreciation of cultures other than their own and their own. So that's kind of the essence of this, but I'd be happy to take on any questions that you might have.
Thank you. I want to thank you as well as the Board of Education for always, being on the lookout for these and being very competitive in your writing for these grants. Just one question. I've always thought that foreign language teaching should start earlier, just because that's when we have the higher aptitude of learning new languages. So how, with this grant, and also when this grant is no longer here, how much more would you expect that elementary school students will be learning foreign languages? Whether I know we had Spanish and French, so I don't know, since it's one class, if you would have to focus on one language, but how much more is that going to be integrated into the classroom, specifically K through 5?
Well, as you said, when early on, from infancy and early childhood, children first learn their language through speech and speaking it. And I feel like if we can provide that opportunity in the elementary level and an awareness and enrichment and maybe beginning reading and writing of a new language, by the time they get to the middle school, can you imagine what can happen for them? We have levels of world language, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 4, from novice to really expert. And I foresee that all of our students in Groton could really achieve that goal of becoming expert in their language. And then they are provided this thing called a seal of biliteracy. We assess their capabilities of speaking the language, reading the language, writing the language, and that will be all part of this grant. So I really look forward to that. Actually, Southern Connecticut State University awards a student who's gotten to that level and achieved the seal of biliteracy 9 credits their freshman year. Wow. So it also gives much opportunity. We're always looking for that other opportunity to help families afford, advanced education. We also have a course called World Language and Spanish in the Workplace, and no matter what career our children have, that they are going to be faced with others who speak a different language, and certainly in this community, many of them speaking Spanish.
All right. Thank you. Councilor Bordelon?
Thank you. I'm excited to see that we're grant seeking. I think it's a great opportunity to offset costs and bring in enrichment and development for our students. One of the things that I question and wonder, does this actually cover one of the concerns that happened at Westside several years ago, was when a world language teacher was out, like French, they put in a building sub, which you just have to have a bachelor's degree and pass, to be a substitute teacher. But there was an extreme delay in getting someone who was fluent in the language behind the desk in the seat, especially in a high school level credited class. And when I reached out, it was stated that it's hard to find world language. They were working on it. So my hope is, as we expand, it's great, and now we have a dollar amount, But as we grow, we have to be able to seed what we already sowed. And my concern is that we haven't been able to do that in the town of Groton. And so, how could this help? Is this going to help seed that program to ensure if a teacher needs to be out for a medical leave or family emergency, that you have someone adequately trained in the language that's supposed to be taught, especially for high school level credit?
So
That's my first question.
Starting earlier will certainly bring, especially the verbal proficiencies for children going into the middle school. Also, the expansion, we didn't really have enough students signing up for Latin this year, so we did take care of the students who were grandfathered in, but we want to also survey again parents. We get a lot of information from the surveys to see if can be an expansion of a different language, but taking care of those languages that you talk about, Portia, of the languages that we already have in the middle school and the high school with highly certified, qualified teachers is really of utmost importance. And because we do have a chair of the department, there is some flexibility in that schedule where that could be someone who could actually oversee something if we came into an emergency situation like that again.
So my other question would be, as we grow the campus, we unified the middle school and the high school for more enrichment purposes, one would think then, would you be funding an extra world language teacher that could be fully trained in that language that could sub between the two buildings in the event that there was an emergency or a teacher was out?
I think that we could possibly do that in a real positive, flexible way, but what we're going to be hiring is someone who will do the elementary world language, but a world language teacher is certified basically K through 12. So they're experienced and they can teach at any grade level.
Right. So that's important to me, is that we're seeding those gaps, especially if we're offering high school or college, high school level credits. The other concern is with this, one of the other concerns from constituents in the community overwhelmingly is the lack of English as a second language teachers to support their students in the elementary, then the middle school and the high school. Would this program then allow, at one point we had one English as a second language teacher that was roving between middle school and high school, and the number of students, as you stated, that mainly speak Spanish and some that are here that's their only language that they know, that teachers cannot serve each student adequately. These kids are in, what I heard from constituents, and if I'm expressing it correctly, is that they performed at high school or grade level in their native language, but then when they came here, they were put in lower classes because they weren't getting the support and services that they needed to achieve in those classes. So they were meeting with the English as a second language teacher for an hour here or there, but no one was supporting them in the math class or in the English class. Would this also feed that program and close those gaps that Groton is currently experiencing?
Right now, when I first arrived here in 2014, we did have one EL teacher. Now we have 3 certified. They're both TESOL and bilingual trained, which is really necessary when you have a community that is bilingual or considered bilingual. I would also say that we have about 10 EL tutors. So we have an EL tutor who's a certified teacher. Many of them had been retired teachers, but they've had a lot of training in TESOL. We even train teachers. We have these university professors from Southern Connecticut State University who've done a lot of coaching and professional development. We cluster our students so that you might have a team of 4 kids in a classroom, and then the tutor is able to go with them and help assist them. So the teacher oversees the tutors. So they're beyond the 3 certified teachers. There are 10 to 12 of these EL tutors, but we monitor caseloads all the time. We check our lost links data, which is the data that really keeps track of how kids are doing. And I have to say that our data, state data on lost links, our world language kids are making some of the most significant growth. So I'm pleased to say that. But you're right, you make a point. We are always monitoring those caseloads, and if we needed another EL teacher, we would be putting it in the budget and coming to you.
Thank you for that. So we have 3 for the whole district, and then the tutors.
Right.
But we went from 1. When did we go up to 3?
We probably went up to the 3rd one about 4 years ago. Okay. And really in the middle school. The elementary was hired after the high school when I was here, and then we hired the middle school. EL teacher.
Thank you for that. I appreciate, all your hard work on this, and I hope to see the world language grow and expand and be supported, and as well as making sure our English as a second language has the support.
Counselor's time has
And
expired.
the teachers have the support, so I thank you for that.
Thank you. Counselor Baumgartner? Just for a second, I want to note that we have a few Board of Ed members online as well, including the chair. Counselor Baumgartner?
Hello, Kim. And hey, Andre. Great to see you, and great to see you as well, Superintendent.
Thank you.
Very excited about this grant. Just out of curiosity, if you could walk us through how the town acquired it. I imagine Congressman Courtney played a small role in it.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, but I would say that Shannon Weigel, who's in the audience, played a huge role. She is really, she has done so much for Groton Public Schools. Not only the $6 million worth of grants, but we got nearly $5 million MSAP grant, which really turned our middle school into, International Baccalaureate Middle Years Program for all students and STEAM. So we have the STEM and the humanities. And boy, if anybody in the community wanted to take a tour and see what's happening there, I'd be happy to take them. It is a beautiful site. So these grants have really been supported by Shannon Weigel doing, the intricate work that is needed, that goes into a grant in really supervising and looking at all the details that have to go in, and then gathering the data and putting it together. And our whole staff, we bring a team of teachers and administrators together saying, if you could dream big, and this grant is about this, what would you think what's the way we want to go? And I talked to the Board of Education and gather their input too, as we're putting these together. So it's really a community effort, and Shannon gets a big shout out from me because, and then it's a lot of work when you get these grants. So we have directors of the grant, Val Nelson, a retired principal and teacher from Groton. She's handled many of the grants, at least a couple of them. And that process too, you're constantly looking at the data. We do that for the state anyway. We do that for our kids, making sure they have everything they want. But I would say that it really is a team effort in putting this together and then seeing it through to the finish line.
Absolutely. And so obviously it is a competitive grant. The Department of Defense grants this award. And so the qualifier would be that we have an ROTC program, or just reading
Yes.
through the grant application. Excellent.
And we did apply, and it was something the community has talked about for a long time. And it's something that I have wanted, being the Navy junior that I am, and I know a few of you are. It's something that I've really wanted to see come to fruition. We've been advised that we were to really apply for the National Naval Defense Cadet Corps first, and then it would come to pass that you could then apply for JROTC if there was a slot. So we're actually starting a club this year. We have a couple staff members who were also retired Navy folks, and they're going to help spearhead this and get kids excited. One of our students did a survey when he was in 8th grade. He's now a senior, and he found out that 30% of Groton Public Schools middle schoolers at that time, boys and girls, wanted to have this program.
Wow.
So really listening to the voices of our kids and our community is important in getting these things.
That's incredible. And just a question regarding the budget, how the district came up with the apportionment.
So we really have this theme with our DODEA grants. It really is deeply embedded in professional learning. So one thing, when you come to Groton to teach, you really want to be a continuous learner, and our staff and faculty really gets a lot of kudos for that. It's a real investment in time and our workforce, and really making sure we have the highest quality teaching going on, because what we give our kids, as you know, when I come to you with a budget, 3/4 of our budget is the staff, from teachers to paras to all the support staff, the custodians and everyone. So there are 2 positions, and for sustainability, I think that we are helping to support that in its final year. And then we would, with the data, come to the, to the board and look at how we sustain that and see that through.
So
There might be a few retirements by then, and sometimes we have some cost savings with that.
So the grant should last about 5 years. in
Yes.
total. And then lastly, on one of the line items, I see American Sign Language supplies. So is that?
American Sign Language
Yeah.
is so popular.
It is.
So we started at Fitch a few years ago because we had a teacher of the deaf who really was a believer in sign language and learned with the foreign language teachers. And she has done a wonderful job. And we have a second teacher of the deaf and sign language teacher. And I'm telling you, they have extended more sign language classes at the high school. We have one going on too at Groton Middle School this year. So it's really a sought-after course.
I took ASL in high school.
Did you?
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see that it'll be making its way into our public schools. So thank you for all your efforts and
Thank you.
your team, and look forward to supporting this.
Appreciate it.
Chair Watson? Do you have your hand up?
Okay, sorry. I thought that you were talking to me, but I wasn't sure. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to Mayor Melendez and John Burt for getting, for being really supportive and getting this to the town council as soon as you could, so that they could ask the questions that they're asking and eventually vote on that, so that we can then move it to the RTM so we can get busy. Because Susan, my understanding is that we already have to start the planning, that we kind of get the grant and we are moving at the same time. Is that correct?
That's right. End of
Okay,
September.
So once again, thank you for your response to that. And the board is just, I would also like to say a shout out to Sharon Weigel for her efforts around grant writing. We always are trying very hard to make sure that our budget is reasonable and makes sense, and then to be able to provide grants to enhance not only professional development for our teachers, but also, most importantly, to enhance learning for our students. And I think that really, since I've been part of the board and we've been getting these grants, we're really focused on sustainability. And that we really ask Susan or the superintendent and his or her staff to come in and tell us what the plan is, that if we wanted to continue to move forward on that, how do we do this, and how do we sustain it where we're not just adding to our budget, which becomes eventually not feasible. And so I really, I feel that the board had that answered by Susan and her staff, specifically looking at the fact that we're having someone that's monitoring that's their job, is to monitor what's happening in that grant, to gather the data, do the professional development, so that teachers who are coming on can gain the information from what the teachers, the teachers who've had the professional development done. So I think that we work really hard, and I just wanted to say a big shout out to the town council, and to say thank you for partnering with us and putting this on your agenda so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Bordelon?
Thank you. So my second turn here. What will be the breakdown, or roughly, of the monies that will be used towards the ROTC versus the language? How will that be determined?
So,
Or what's the driver on that?
so there are supplies in there right now with the commitment from the NNDCC. There will be costs for the club, the enrichment club, that will be covered. Students will get uniforms, but I've already talked to the captain on the base, and they have a thrift shop. And so he's invited us to have the kids kind of come to the thrift shop, and they're going to help support kids getting their uniforms. The NNDCC also, for any of their marching, they'll be giving them all the flags and things they need to carry when they march. So really, it's covered through some supplies, in the grant and in our enrichment and operations. So
Yes, as you know, to end on a positive, that I've been cheerleading the ROTC program here as a mother of two sons, both wanting to join the military. I got involved coming to Board of Ed meetings, speaking up. Both of my children are military dependents, and as we speak, my son serves in on the Navy base here in Groton. He did not have the opportunity to be part of an ROTC program and questioned leaving the town to go seek the program to prepare him. So 6 years ago, I, along with Mrs. Lambert down at Westside, who is a math teacher now at the Groton Middle School, whose husband is active duty military, and her children, she has a son, I believe, that's in a program now. They did not get to benefit from this, and this is the type of program we need in Groton. It's not all about IB, AV, AP classes. It's not every child's going to go to college. Having career readiness when we were in a submarine capital town with the Navy here, it's imperative that we start to represent that and show that. Going to other schools where they have the program, you can see them on the field for football games and marching band events, and we should be very proud and honored, and I would look forward to see what the rollout would be like for this. I have not seen anything come from the school yet announcing it, or anything as far as a club starting effectively. When do you think the ROTC or the actual, and/or program would start effective next year?
We have a planning committee. I actually meet with them tomorrow, so the club will start in about a month.
Okay.
And we'll do that, use that year for planning, and then we're collecting the curriculum that comes to us, military science. It needs to go through a Board of Ed process, and then the goal is to have it in the books for the students to register for next year. The idea of the club, though, is to really help encourage kids to want to take this pathway. We have several pathways, many pathways in our careers program. So, but I would say one of my proudest moments as a superintendent, besides handing out the certificates, is asking students if they plan on serving our country to stand up. And I'm just always so impressed. It's not unusual to see 30 to 40 students standing up, whether they go to an academy, a military academy, or whether they're enlisting. And if you have a JROTC program, students can go in at an E4 rate instead of an E1. So there again, talk about getting workforce ready and getting something towards that workforce. It's so essential. I couldn't agree with you more. We have to look at all the different pathways kids can take.
Thank you for that. And will there be any partnership with New London as we take off?
We already are.
Okay.
We've been working with them. They've been so helpful.
Perfect.
In working with our staff and giving us ideas. This has been going on. Shannon actually prepared a trip for us on the Navy base prior to COVID, and we met with the folks from New London and the submarine, the officers and enlisted folks there. And so we've been planning this for several years, so it's about time.
Thank you. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, me too.
Any other hands? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion to recommend a resolution authorizing the Superintendent of Schools, Susan Austin, to accept the DODEA World Language Advancement and Readiness Program grant in the amount of $1 million and to complete any associated agreements, and to refer the grant acceptance request to their representative town meeting via 6.5.3. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Melendez, seconded by Baumgartner. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 6 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Thank you, and thank you.
On to voter registration update, page 15. And we have the registrar of voters here for the update. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
So I assume that I was brought here to discuss the issues with the redistricting. So what I wanted to say is that redistricting is not an exact science. It's my first time. It's done once every 10 years. We get a map that looks like this. We don't get a list of streets with numbers and what districts to put them in because the state doesn't know what our districts are. So I blew it up. And I didn't bring it up here. Oh, there it is. So I blew it up and I'll show you what it looks like. So that's what I was working with to try to figure out what streets we needed to move to where. So I was approached by Chris Connolly that there were some mistakes. I quickly fixed those mistakes as soon as I found out about them. And then for every single person that was affected, you guys all have a copy of this. And it's upside down. It's a note that is going to every person, and it says in yellow, please disregard previous incorrect information. It tells them where they're going to vote. So there's different districts in this box, but they all look the same. And then on the bottom, I put the candidates are on the other side so that they can know. At the top of the sheet, I put all of the districts. So like District 1 is the Groton Public Library, and so on. And then over on the left-hand side, I put what districts are affected by which candidates so that they could see that, you know, if they thought they were in 4, but they're really in 3, that they vote for, you know, different people so they can see that, and it goes to every person in the house. I didn't send it just to households. I sent it to every person that was registered in the household so that they knew they were registered and they got the information, not just one person who puts it aside. So I just wanted to let you know that that was the issue that just happened. It has been corrected. The letters have been mailed, and we should be good. The other thing that, you know, we'll do is, that we do every time though, is if somebody comes into the wrong polling location, we'll verify that they are a registered voter and what polling location they go into, and then we will send them to that location to vote, because the state law does not allow anybody to vote in a different polling location than the one that's assigned to them.
Thank you. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for this redistricting effort. I know it's a massive undertaking for you, you know, once every 10 years. And thank you for your quick attention when there was pointed out to be some error. I just want to say, reiterate what you just said right at the end there, because my first time actually voting in an election, there was a typo in my registration and they couldn't find my name on the thing, so then they sent me to another one and then back to the one. So I just want to say that if there is some error with you know, if you show up to the wrong one or something happens, they, you know, the workers there will find where you're supposed to be and you will be able to vote. So of course, you know, mistakes happen, but I just want everyone to know that if you show up on election day, the workers will find your correct your voting booth and you will be able to vote. So just thank you for everything you did. Thank you for correcting the mistake, and thank you for coming here. I also watched you in the city council meeting yesterday. So just thank you for doing this public outreach on this matter. Thank you. Councilor Bordelon?
Thank you. Thank you for your correction with this. It is concerning because we do have an election in less than, I don't even know how many weeks we're at. It's coming up in November. So there's been one attempt. Is there any other plan that the town, I guess to the town manager as well, you know, as the register, to do any more outreach? Because let's face it, you know, we get a lot of mail and sometimes things can get missed. Is there going to be any more public outreach on our public television station, something in the newspaper about this error? Also, did it go in dual language? Do we know? No. So I have concerns about that because, you know, I definitely was speaking up about making sure we had a bilingual ballot in Groton, which we now do. And I think if we send anything out in voter, as we just spoke about Spanish being our second largest language here in the town of Groton, I do think that we should just assume and send out things in dual language. Because now I'm concerned that a bunch of possible voters now may not understand what possibly is going on. So those are my questions. What other outreach we're going to do? And when a voter shows up at a voting station, and it might have been walking distance, and now they have to drive and they don't have the accessibility, nor did they plan because they thought they were at the right place. How are we going to accommodate these voters?
Well, usually, for your last question, usually the parties are the ones that do the driving. However, I have been told that we can ask a police officer to do that for us. Of course, they're not going to be able to do that for everybody, but if we have somebody that has a special circumstance, we can definitely call the police for them and have them give them a ride.
Okay.
And then give them a ride home.
And so is there any way that we can get this in dual language? And also, John, can we get it up on the channel, our public's channel, with this advertisement in dual language and explain what's going on?
Once it's created in dual language, we certainly can. I just want to be careful not to confuse other people who aren't affected, so we want to be really careful with that.
Well, it's important that the whole town knows. So I think for myself, even it's not my, well, my district was one district that was changed recently as well. In order for me to be able to educate everyone else, I have to have the education, right? So we have to look at it. There's disabled, there's people that don't speak English as a first language, there's elderly with people with dementia. So it's important that you only not target the individual, that you fan it broad and wide so that people can assist others in understanding. Some people are hearing impaired, visually impaired. We need to make sure that everybody understands what is going on. So if someone's at their polling station and they want to help them, they'll understand that this era happened and that they will be able to know where to direct them and how to direct them. So however you feel to do that, I just think we need more education. We have new polling stations online. That also is a huge change. So with all these changes, I just don't think there's enough education out there as of yet. And so I'm looking for more. We went from the beach at the Eastern Point back to the old former West Side, new Thames River Magnet. That's a change, along with the Cutler School, new elementary school now, former Cutler location, new elementary school as a voting location. So my district got changed. I wasn't part of this recent hiccup, which you were wonderful and helped with my hiccup in my neighborhood because I was also redistricted. It was very confusing. So if I'm confused, then voters are going to be confused. And we can't assume because we're involved that we know. But I'm really concerned about the dual language.
Councilor's time's expired.
Thank you. And making sure that we get this up on TV and such.
Councilor Kassiri.
Can she answer me first, please? Thanks.
As far as advertising this goes, all of the new districts have been put on CCTV, Groton TV, whatever that's called. That's been up there since July, since they approved it. It has been in the paper, and it will be in the paper again. I actually, because of all the redistricting, I thought about just putting a generic, seeing if I could get something on the radio stations, there's a couple of local radio stations, to see if they could say, if you're not sure where you vote, feel free to call the voter registration office and they can look you up, or you can go to the lookup tool. The other thing that I am in the process of doing is taking the list of all the voters and listing their name and street and district and putting that on our website. So when they go to our website, if they want to know where they vote or that they're registered, they can see just the list of Groton. They don't have to try to find another website. So that was another thought. If you have any other ideas, I would be happy to do that as far as advertising goes. And with the question on the dual language, I can definitely do that because Betsy can help me with that in the town clerk's office because she does the ballot as well. Some of the stuff I can get off the ballot, but some of the words that I put on there, I would need some assistance with to make sure that it's grammatically correct.
Thank you. Manager Burt.
And then I assume at the 2 poll locations that could be where people could show up, the volunteers will be trained on what's happening, have a list of who might come in under that circumstance.
Very true, yes. Actually, they are going to have a list in a book of every voter and where they vote. So they'll be able to check, especially if there's a line, they're going to go out and check. So we always have an extra person to do that on a busier election. We also have signs made up for the 2 locations that have changed. We're going to put one at the old location telling them where to go and one at the new location saying this is where you go. so that if they do by chance go to the beach or go to SB Butler, there'll be a sign right there that says voting today, or voting, we'll put it up like a week ahead. Voting will be happening at the new Mystic River or Thames River Magnet School. So if they accidentally go to the wrong place and they see, dust things rolling through the parking lot, they'll know where to go.
Thank you. Counselor Kasiri?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for all your efforts to try and fix this and for all your efforts with the redistricting. I'm sure it was a lot. But because of this error, I'm a little concerned about possibly voters going there on registration day and not having something tangible to walk away with like an address so that they know where to go. Is it possible to have something like this available on voting day for the workers to hand out if they do go to the wrong voting location? And that way they have a place and an address so they can get over there without getting to their cars and maybe forgetting.
Yes, we actually do have papers that the assistant registrars will hand to them saying, oops, sorry, you went to the wrong place. Your vote counts. Please go to this place, and it'll have the name and address of the location they need to go to.
Perfect.
So they can take that with them.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Very good. Counselor Baumgartner?
Yes, just one question, and thank you for correcting the error in a pretty quick time frame. With respect to, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. My goodness. Want to go next? I'm going to collect my thoughts.
Counselor Bordelon?
My last question, because I couldn't finish before, maybe with the school system might be nice. I know a lot of parents that are engaged, having the school post some stuff online as well. Since Election Day, folks are kind of, paying attention to. It might be nice to just, say that, using our resources, that parents are in tune at the school level on a daily basis. Might be another avenue, but definitely getting it up on our channel, our public channel, would be really nice. And I like the idea of adding the addresses under. Is it corrected if you go on and see that you're registered to vote and where to vote? Is that accurate on the government site currently?
Yes, it is.
That
I
is
made
it.
all those changes before I sent the letters out, so.
Perfect. So
Everybody should be accurate up to what I'm aware of right now. Everybody should be where they're supposed to be.
right. I just think that the more, my concern is if there's a small window, I mean, people think, oh, it's open to 6 to 8 p.m. But if someone works weird hours and they make that one dash to go vote before work at 6 a.m. and they're not able to do that, and they can't come back and they don't have the time because they're already time. I just want to make sure that we're getting as much information out before that happens. Not to say that the police couldn't give people rides or other things, but some people have to take buses and cabs to get to these places. It's a cost to them to go vote, and we really just need to make sure that as much education is out beforehand. That's all. Thank you.
Counselor Baumgartner?
Yes, we're all calm, cool, and collected now. So, question about the ordinance. So, every 10 years, the town has to update our code of ordinances to enshrine or codify the redistricting plan. So, will this at all be impacted by that? Will we have to kind of reopen the language, or?
No, the ordinance is correct.
Okay.
There's no need to reopen that. There's no changes necessary.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Okay. See no other hands. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to Branford Manor update. And we have some residents from Branford Manor to come speak to us today. thank you. I'm sure everyone knows the issue that's been going on in Branford Manor. The council is pleased to invite some residents of Branford Manor to tell them their story, their firsthand experience. Just to note to counselors, their attorneys here, just to advise them, but all questions should be directed at the residents. Thank you. So do you guys have someone who wants to, there you go. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification before we start. When we direct our questions, since we're only allowed 2 turns, but if we have to ask each resident a question, how are we gonna
You can
do that?
direct the question to the whole group if you wish.
So we get twice to ask the whole group, is what you're saying? I just want to make sure I'm within the parameters.
If you ask a question and someone up front wants to respond, they can respond.
I just want them to be aware that we're only allowed to ask 2 questions, so they don't think that we're not.
I don't think you're allowed to. Okay.
That's why I'm asking you, how many times do we get to speak?
The normal council rules apply.
Right, so that's twice. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Latasha Barrage. I live at 254 Branford, Building 43. I have been placed in a hotel since the end of June, I believe, early July. When I first was told that I was going to be going there, I was given less than 48 hours to get myself together. It was talked about prior of that, and I asked, was it going to happen? Due to me having to have surgery, they said no, and then they gave me 2 days to grab whatever we could grab and leave. During that time, since the 1st of July till current, nothing has been done to the apartment besides moving and shifting things around. The smell is horrendous. You can't be in there long without coughing and, going on from the mold or whatever is going on in there that we don't know about. I've been a resident there for about 13 years. I've never seen a rat, roach, or anything like that. Ledgelight and a few other inspectors came to come. Of course, they called me to come so I can be inside while they're there. When they went to the basement, there were 4 dead rats in my basement. There were rat droppings down there. So now when I come, or if I come back, I don't know what I'm coming back to. I have come there every day to check to see what's being done. And like I said, nothing was being done. I stopped by the office just about every other day, or now I've gotten it down to once a week to find out when am I coming back or what's going to be done. I just found out tonight when I got here that supposedly my name was on the list of people that was offered a furnished apartment, and I refused it. I've never been offered a furnished apartment. I definitely wouldn't refuse it because my daughter just started Three Rivers College, and it would be so much easier for us to let her catch the bus from Branford than coming all the way from Mystic to try to get her to the bus for 7:30, so on and so forth. The runarounds are still the same. We have a bunch of people running around Branford, but still to no avail. Nothing is really being done. And again, as usual, lack of communication. Like I said, I spoke to people, I spoke to them, I'm dealing with a lady named Ivy now. Since Donna Brown is not there, I left there as of today to ask her if she knew when I was coming home or anything. She said she did not know, but yet my name is on that paper saying they have a date for October 3rd. They will pay no more hotels. I had no idea. A few times since we've been in the hotel, we've been locked out of our room because Branford did not reserve again or, let them know that we were going to be extended or whatever it was. So I had to call my lawyer. She had to call whoever she had to call so we could be able to get back in our room. But because we've been there so long, the people are they're good with us and they let us back in. No one has let us know anything. Quite frankly, I'm just tired of the whole situation. I'm exhausted with it. Like I said before, if I could, I would just leave. I've been to so many places putting in applications. I can't even find a place. I'm sorry, today has just been so terrible. Every place you go to, no one wants to accept, because now it's all credit, is this, is that. It's just, you're just here and you're just trapped. And, you know, we come to you guys, we talk to you guys, and you do the best that you can do, but yet still nothing is being done, and they make all these reports that this is being done, that's being done. But at any given time, I could take each and every one of you to my place and nothing has been done. Nothing at all. But yet they still tell the different lies and the different things. And like I said, there's a list with my name on it that I was never informed about. I've never been offered a place to stay. I've never been offered to come back. I've never been offered any of those things. Now when I leave here, I have to go pack, start getting things together, because again, I was unaware that October 3rd was going to be our final day at the hotel. So as of now, I don't know where we're going or what we're going to do. So I urge you, if you can, to please continue to dig in deep with these people, because there are such liars, and so many people, again, they have nowhere to go. They're afraid to still speak out, and then some of them, they're looking at the things going on and they're content with it, because they're like, oh, they're doing things, but it's just to get you to say, oh, they're doing things, so you'll settle down and be quiet. But we still can't breathe in there. Since we've been out of the place, I haven't taken one inhaler. I haven't had no sinus issues. My husband hasn't had any coughing attacks. Nobody has had any type of sicknesses since we have been out of the place. So I don't know what I'm going back to. So I just ask that you guys continue to try to help us. And again, please excuse me. It's just been a rough day today, but thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christina Tejeda. I live at 194 Branford Avenue, Building 40. So I can give you a little idea of what it looks like to return back to your home. I was in the same situation as her, where I was in a hotel. I resided there for 2 months with my 3 children. The day that we were supposed to get changed from a different hotel, which we were staying in Groton because it's more convenient for myself and my children because we have no vehicle, they decided to put us in New London and said basically that's where we're going to stay. This was after 3 to 4 hours of no reservation being reserved for us. We were supposed to sit in the lobby with all our belongings, and as a parent, I made the decision to return back home. My kids didn't want to stay in the lobby. It was embarrassing. We literally had a whole, the baggage trolley full of our belongings. We were there for 2 months. It's 4 of us. Since I've been back home, we've all been sick. Brain fog, extremely. A lot of times I can't remember, if I'm going to the kitchen, I'm gonna go get something, in mid-action of me walking from the 2nd floor down to the 1st floor, I completely forget what I was even going downstairs for. I'm constantly congested, sneezing, runny nose, my eyes always irritated. I'm on tons of medication and inhalers, so are my children. When I was at the hotel, I did not use an inhaler. I didn't use any medication. I actually was able to sleep a healthy night's worth of sleep. At home, I have to sleep inclined. I wake up 6 to 7 times a night because I'm gasping for air. I cannot breathe, I'm choking. It is very serious what we're going through. We're living in mold and we're just forgotten about. And this is just what it's been. Yeah, it's been more public to a lot of people, but they're not moving fast enough. What they're doing is just ignoring these violations. And I can show you a lot of these violations. These are violations that are coming from our city inspector. And this is Branford Manor. So all the violations that we have. In my apartment itself, I have 11 violations. Some of my violations are very severe. It's beyond mold. I have electrical issues. I've had electrical issues since I've moved in, which they have always been aware of. The rats, it's disgusting. We have holes surrounding the perimeter of every L. In my front entrance, I have about 3 holes where rats are just coming in and out of. My back stoop, I have about 4. They're coming in and out of. I'm taking big rocks, stuffing them in to stop the rats from coming in. The winter is approaching. The rats are not gonna have anywhere to go. Where are they gonna go? In our basements. Now we have to worry about rats coming into our apartments. It's not just mold, it's everything that we're dealing with. It's just in general. They're not communicating with us properly. They have tried to enter my home when I was home. Mind you, I signed a piece of paper my first year of being a tenant there saying that they are not allowed in my unit without my permission unless it's an emergency, which is the floods and everything. We know that we have to give them access 100%. And I've always agreed to that. A man came to my door saying that he was allowed access at any given moment. He showed me the piece of paper, would not let me take a picture of it, and it said, enter at any time. That's going against my rights. I told them they're not allowed in my house. I was in a hotel for 2 months. No one did work at my home, not one thing. All they did was put notices at my door, notices at my door. No one did anything. I moved back into an apartment that had literally nothing done. Nothing at all. Now they want to start moving forward with repairs, but these repairs are minor repairs. Closet doors, which we have requested numerous times, that they told us remove the doors, throw them out, and then they charge people for the doors. They don't want to change the track. The doors fall on our children, they fall on us. They don't want to do anything about it. These are the things that they're focusing on. We have mold. Let's worry about the mold. Let's worry about the things that really matter. The fact that I had to go from a hotel and had no choice but to go home, because where were we gonna go? And now we're back being sick again. That is ridiculous. They knew what we were gonna go back home to. They don't take it serious because they see it as it's not visual. Visual doesn't only kill you. What we're breathing in is not good air. It's not quality air. It's mold in the air. This is what we're breathing in on a day-to-day basis. We're going to sleep, we're breathing in moldy air. We're waking up. I wake up every day tired, with a headache, because I couldn't sleep all night. I'm waking up too many times during the night. My children, the same thing. When I was at the hotel, my son used to wake up in the nighttime. He sleeps with a roll of toilet paper next to him. When we were at the hotel, he never slept with a roll of toilet paper next to him. This is not a joke. This is severe. We have people in hotels. We have people living in these conditions. I did both at this point. I know what it is to live in the hotel and return back to these conditions. Soon, a lot of people that are in hotels are going to return back to these conditions. And these conditions are worse now because our apartments were closed. There's no ventilation. We don't know what's going to be in those basements or even the crawl spots. We don't know what a lot of people are coming home to. I know what I came home to because I've been living in it for the past month that I've been home about. And I've been living in these conditions of, wow, I have to come home. I have to clean everything now because now there's dust in my apartment because it hasn't been taken care of. I'm not doing my, weekly cleaning. And I still have mold. I wasn't one of the people that had a lot of visual mold. When I came back, my bathroom had a lot of visual mold. And it's not visual mold that's on the caulking, it's beneath the caulking. Like you can see it seeping through. And they're not doing anything about it. They come, caulk over it, they don't remove it, then do it properly. Or you have maintenance workers that's like, oh, a tube is like $3, cover it up yourself. I'm not a maintenance worker. Yeah, I know how to do it. I don't get paid for that. If I call maintenance to come in to do a repair, it should be done in a timely manner. There's no reason why we have all these violations, and they're all similar violations. This is not COVID that stopped them from doing work. This is a lack of not doing work because why? They feel like they don't have to do the work for us. They feel like because we're low income, you are gonna live in these circumstances because you have no other place to go. That's not fair. Whether we're paying the minimum rent, the max rent, we're all living there, we're all paying rent, and we're raising our children, and we all deserve to be treated properly, and they're not treating us properly. It's not fair to us, it's not fair to our kids. We have to deal with the fact that our children are constantly sick, and then we're sick as well. How do you take care of your children when you're sick from something that you cannot control? A common cold, take some cough medicine, go to rest, drink some water, you get better. Mold in your house every day? No, you do not get better from that. You can't go take a nap, you can't take over-the-counter medicine, and it's like, poof, it's gone. This is something that we're living in day to day, and we just need them to move fast and do it properly, not put families and displace them. I was without a kitchen for 2 months, and we were eating meals out of fast food joints and stuff like that. That's not proper living. Put people, a whole LPlex, remove them, renovate, and move them back home. If you're removing 1, 2, 3 families out of 9 apartments that's in the LPlex, the mold is gonna continue to regrow. And then you're having people living in these apartments while repairs are being done. So now they're being exposed to the elements of mold. It's just a cycle of work that's not being done properly, and we're just collateral damage at this point. Our kids are collateral damage at this point. We just want everything done to be proper, just done properly, and move forward, and everything will be better for us and the next people that decide to move in there. That's all I can say. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Felicita. I live at 178 Branford Avenue. I'm actually here to speak on my behalf and on my sister's behalf, who she couldn't be here because she actually suffered a concussion due to them not fixing the carpeting on her stairs. She actually slid down the stairs, hit the back of her head, and now she's concussed to the point where she can't remember where she lives. She can't remember where I live. I found her outside and at 1 o'clock in the morning with no shoes, no jacket, and she just started crying. She didn't know where to go. And I have to take her to the hospital. I've had to take her to the hospital 3 times now. And all 3 times she's like, she can't remember her name. She can't remember her date of birth, nothing. She hasn't even been able to go to work or pick up her kid or nothing. I've had to take that responsibility upon myself along with my own kids. They even wrote down that they fixed all the issues in her apartment, and they still haven't gone in to fix those issues. All those issues are still present. On top of that, she's constantly told them not to enter her apartment, and they're constantly going in her apartment, even with the ladies in the office telling them not to enter her apartment when she's not home. Now, on my behalf, yeah, they covered the ceiling in my the hole in my ceiling. They still have not painted it. They fixed some of the minor issues, and I called recently because during that rainfall, my basement was leaking through the wall. Like, there is a long crack from top to bottom in my wall, and it looked like a little stream of water coming in through my basement. I called, nobody answered. I went in person recently and showed them the pictures and the video, and they asked me to send it to them, and still nothing has been done. The whole recertification process, I've called to make an appointment with them, never answered my phone call. And now they're rushing me to come in and sign all the paperwork that they need so they could do all the verifications before the 1st, or they're gonna charge me full rent, even though that's not my fault. On top of that, the whole rat issue. I've seen like 6 or 7 rats back and forth from the fence running through people's gardens and everything. Mice, I've never had mice in my apartment. I've seen 2 now. Like, it's getting ridiculous. The mosquitoes are even more ridiculous. We've walked through a fog of mosquitoes in the back, and that's never, in the years I've been there, have I gone through that. The amount of spiders in my basement is ridiculous. I've emptied most of my basement, and still, like, they haven't come in. They haven't set an appointment with me to fix anything. Every time I call, they don't answer. If messages are left, they say they don't receive them. It's ridiculous. At this point, it's really ridiculous. And as what she was talking about, that they keep giving notices. Yeah, they give notices, but it's not a whole 24-hour notice. They let us know a few hours before they had to enter your apartment. That's not fair to us. How are we supposed to be prepared for whatever they have to fix or whatever they have to do if we're not given proper notice? On top of that, because they know the city's coming, now they want to rush to fix whatever they need to fix in certain apartments. That's not fair to us either. Why are you guys rushing now? Why not get it done in a timely fashion when it should be done. Like, it's already ridiculous. On top of that, some people are tested positive for mold, spore, and blood. I myself and my kids have been sick constantly during the last few months. Like, it's been constant. I've never had a nosebleed. I haven't had a nosebleed in years. I just recently had 2. My youngest, my 3-year-old, had 2 nosebleeds, and she doesn't constantly get that. My middle child also constantly having nosebleeds. I can't breathe in my apartment either. Like, right now I sound a little stuffy, and it's never COVID. We've tested ourselves for COVID. It's never the flu. They've tested us for the flu. It's just constantly fevers and boogers or stuffed up. I can't live in these conditions anymore. I'm so stressed out. I want to even leave. I don't even want to continue dealing with these people. It's ridiculous. There's what more can we do? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And just to know, Councilor Parker has joined us at 7:51. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Catherine Pruitt. I live in Building 18, Unit 161 on Mather Avenue. I've lived in my apartment less than a year. For a year and a half, me and my 2 children, now 13 and 9, shared a single bedroom at my parents' house while waiting to get into Branford Manor. It was the shortest waiting list in the area. Now that I've been here for nearly a year, the scariness of the situation is real. My kids are having breathing problems that they've never had before in life. I myself, it's more than just breathing for me. You get forgetful, can't sleep at all. The mold, it's not even just mold, it's literally everything. The walls are falling apart. The cracks are getting bigger. In less than a year, I have cracks that were not there when I moved in. The parking lot outside my apartment is sinking in. They've already filled it in once, and it is continuing to sink in. If the parking lot is sinking in, what is the building doing? What is the ground that we are sleeping in doing? One of my neighbors has a floor. They just put down that new sticky wood looking like floor that they put in all the apartments when they renovated and made it nice. But under that sticky floor, the wood is saturated in urine. Her entire apartment smells like cat urine 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day, because when they came in there, instead of changing the floors, spending the money to fix it, they just covered it up. Somebody came in to fix it the other day. They didn't touch the floors. They cleaned the heaters along the wall and the floorboards. Is that what they're called? Yeah. They wiped that down with a chemical, told her she couldn't be there until after 5 p.m. because she's got 2 one-year-old children that are living in this apartment that smells like urine 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They came in and were doing work under all of the buildings. I had no hot water. It would only get warm. I told them about this. He looked at the boiler's fine. This was on a Friday. All weekend, me and my 2 kids had no hot water. So no hot water in my shower, no hot water in my sink, my dishes, my dishwasher, no hot water. And they came Monday, because I called the office again. I still have no hot water. Supposedly somebody came in, checked it, fixed it. Still no hot water. So a week and a half, I played this game with Branford going back and forth. I have no hot water, and the water that is coming out is trickling out. There's no pressure. What's going on? Get this fixed. Finally, this morning, after they called me on emergency, said there was an emergency plumbing issue, we got to shut down the water for the whole building. Okay, I'm at work. Finally, I come home from work today and there is hot water. Takes a few minutes to heat up still, and the pressure is still not the best, but at least we have hot water. But who knows? Because I was also called today while I was at work and told I have to be there tomorrow because they are coming in for emergency renovations, emergency fixings. I don't even know what this is, what they're gonna be doing to my apartment. I got no notice other than a phone call today. We'll be there tomorrow. So now I have to leave work early tomorrow, take time out of my paycheck to go home to be sure that what they're doing is actual work that needs to be done and not wasting time. It's frustrating and it's hurtful because I work hard, I raise my kids by myself, and to come home every day and have the issues that we walk into and hearing what other people are going through is even worse, honestly, than what me and my kids are going through. It's disheartening. It makes me feel like I am not human. I'm less than to Branford, to related, to everybody in the situation, because nobody is forcing them to fix what needs to be fixed in a timely manner. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Sandra Fetters. I live in Branford Manor, apartment 28, building 31. 4 months ago, Matt Finkel sat in this seat to this council and apologized for the deplorable conditions in Branford Manor. He stated that he knows what the problem is and he knows how to fix them. The same conditions remain today. As of October 3rd, Matt Finkel and company have stated they will no longer be paying for the hotel due to lack of cooperation from us and the residents. I have nowhere to go. I have nothing to go with. This is untrue. 4 months have come and gone. Deadlines for related management have passed. Mold has been growing for decades and will continue to grow into hazardous, life-altering conditions as long as related hires unqualified companies to address these violations. The mold problems have not been eliminated. Their issues have been and always will be the tenant's problem. I guess the cooperation from them is over with making no changes. Now the harassment, intimidation, their tactic of choice continues. Branford Manor has not acknowledged the mold reports, air quality testing, my 504, my medical, the diagnosis, my doctor's professional recommendation to abandon my apartment, all of my possessions, and never to return to any apartment as long as mold remains inside. Branford wants my return under their conditions and under their terms, which is going back in the same lethal environment that we left. They cannot and will not fix the problems. Problems cost money. Branford Manor they bought Branford Manor for profit and tax breaks. When Related bought the property back in 2017, they already knew of the ongoing dangerous mold infestation. I did not have that same opportunity. Every single one of those apartments has levels of mold, no matter if it's high or low. They are all deadly to me. After having bias against one sex or gender that has a purpose of impairing human rights, as Mr. Finkel said, women are undesirable after having children. Calling the women at the New York Housing Authority bitches and pigs on a regular basis, even going as far to say that men are dominant compared to women. These statements are found on pages 5 and 7 that I passed out to you guys. Women and children make up the majority of Branford Manor. With that being said, Matt Finkel has established a clear bias against women. This is a reason that we are living in undesirable conditions. Unethical decisions are being made against us women and children. Intentional endangerment is beyond the bounds of human decency. This company has committed multiple unethical violations, putting profit over people while continuing to dictate business as always. Because of privilege and entitlement, they have been operating at criminal levels without punishment. This is never going to end. On October 3rd, I have nowhere to go. My doctor told me not to return. It will be fatal to me. All my possessions and everything are gone. And I would like my daughter to join up here with us. She has something to say, if that's allowed. Is that allowed?
Sure.
Come here, hon. I thank you guys very much.
Good evening. My name is Emily Fetters, living at 28 Branford Ave in Building 31. I started having grand mal seizures in 2017, 5 years ago, when I was only 13 years old, and epilepsy does not run in the family. The grand mal seizures have been well controlled with seizure medications. I take 20 pills a day to control my absent seizures. That's 140 pills a week and 560 pills a month. My bedroom was right next to the bathroom where the mold was growing the most. We had to put an air conditioner in my bedroom because the humidity was so high it was triggering my absent seizures. Black mold encased that air conditioner within a week. The seizures increased, so we all slept downstairs. My neurologist has identified mold as a possible trigger for my seizures. I have been seizure-free for 133 days since May 17th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Valerie Levy. I live at 159 Mather Avenue. I am here to speak on behalf of myself and my daughter, and for a brief moment, my deceased neighbor, who lived in 155 Mather Avenue. Previously, the picture of that apartment was shared with this council, the other council, and on social media. I have permission from her mother to briefly speak on this. Her daughter previously lived on Branford Avenue, and for Building 18, it was shut down because there was a leaking pipe for a number of years that was neglected. They moved everyone out. Some people that they moved in to that portion of the L on Building 18 were new, and some people were already, or at least she was a previous resident. She told me from our conversation that her daughter was perfectly normal and healthy in the prior apartment, and she moved into Building 18 and for a short time and passed away. She leaves behind a beautiful son who is very bright and intelligent and a wonderful joy. I have held her mother in my arms with her sobbing and crying that no one deserves to bury their child. Some people have lost their ability to breathe in Branford Manor. They're not breathing. They're not here. And I don't know if anybody can hear that. Sorry. The last time we spoke on this matter, the medical examiner has not finalized his report. So I suggested that all the pictures of what 155 looked like before her daughter moved in, that they provide those to the medical examiner, and the neighbor who lived in 155 who wrote up the 2 different comments for them to also provide that to them to hopefully get a more clear understanding of what happened to her daughter and to this little boy's mother. He now will be moving to Florida. He can't stay here anymore. He's going to live with and be raised by his grandmother. It's really unfair, and it's scary. Because Branford lives are supposed to be equal to anybody in this world, and Branford needs to matter to people. It needs to matter because no matter your age, no matter, you know, your background or anything, we could be her. And I invite anyone on this council to please come to my home. There is only one neighbor that separates me from 155. I'm 159. We are in a hotel. We've been in a hotel now for just a little bit over 2 weeks, if I remember properly. As just a repetitive story, my daughter's and our symptoms have cleared up even more since leaving our home. We moved in 10.5 months ago. And so our apartment was completely redone. You know, so first it was redone when they bought the complex. And then it was redone again before her and I moved in. I want everyone on this council to please come inside of my home with your noses. And I want you to smell. And I want you to come inside and I want you to take a look around. And I want you to look at prior pictures. And it's part of the reason that we were placed into the hotel was because our heater was leaking that Branford's environmental specialist had missed. And there was horrible growth on it. But Heather, I forget her last name, I apologize. She had said, oh, well, it's residents' responsibilities to clean the heaters. But why did my apartment have the appearance that it did, but Related in Branford refused to do the basic necessities to a person's heaters? Doesn't anybody remember that there was a horrible fire not very long ago? But yet Branford and Related, they see these really horrible pictures and they're like, oh, well, it's your responsibility. Whose responsibility was it when you're moving in a brand new resident? And the heaters were already on when we first moved in, so I didn't think of checking. But this horrible, it's okay, honey. Oh, mommy's almost done. You're okay. But shh, you're okay. You're okay. The biggest reason that we are in a hotel is because what is the risk of my daughter and I falling through the stairs into the dining room closet, which is right underneath the stairs? As Kathy had said, the walls are moving in our apartments, and it's not only my apartment. When maintenance first took a look, so actually, the pictures of this closet, this was also missed previously, not just the heater, but this was also missed when people did multiple walkthroughs of my apartment. And this kind of damage was not visible when I moved in. Shh, it's okay. You're okay. I'm almost done, okay? But, sorry, I'm getting, losing focus for a moment. So, when I spoke with maintenance, they made the recommendation to the office that a whole be cut in to investigate what is going on, why it's going on, you know, what is the risk to my daughter and I. The office got back to them and
really almost done.
Sorry. The office denied that recommendation and said that all he needs to do is paint over everything. And it was something along the lines of like recaulking or whatever he said about, you know, like patching the stuff up. And I told him I do not consent to that. I will not consent to that. No one is going to enter my home and cover up any of that. So I do not consent to anybody entering my home until somebody does investigative maintenance to figuring out why this is happening and what is going on, and what is creating a risk to, if my daughter and I walking up and down those stairs, are we going to fall through? Since my daughter and I have been put into the hotel, the grandmother, who's now in 155 because they're clearing out the apartment, getting rid of her daughter's possessions and stuff, they have the same damage or similar damage. Also, all of the pictures that you guys previously saw, that stuff is back. I've walked through their entire apartment. It is back. It is growing through the wall, through the paint, and there's other damage. And so it's not just the mold. The floors are moving. And the neighbor who is on the other side of the L, who has the twins, who Kathy was speaking about, and I think, if I remember correctly, I think I learned this from you. Yes. What does mold smell like? Cat urine. So you go into the person's home and you smell just pungent cat pee. What are you smelling? You're smelling mold. Mold can smell in many various different ways. And so you're not smelling cat pee, you're smelling mold. Another neighbor, their mail was mistakenly sent to my address, so they got a hold of me, and I'm like, well, I need to empty out my mailbox anyway. So I went there yesterday to get them their mail and to empty out my mailbox, and I went to set the mail inside and to grab a few of my daughter's, it's okay, and to grab a few of her a little bit of clothing for her and some books, and I was there less than 5 minutes, and I left. And the smell is just getting, hi. Hey there. Hey, it's past bedtime. But the smell is just getting more pungent. It's just getting worse. And it's not safe for me to be there and just do small, normal, I mean, my daughter, she just started preschool. I was supposed to be cleaning my home and living my daily life, but we shouldn't be spending our time here. You guys shouldn't even know me. And also, you know, people talk about the tax cuts to related. What about, because people are living in homes that make them sick, if you guys give these tax cuts, what is the offset to all of the Medicare and Medicaid of all of these bills that are now having to be paid? And Branford, can it be fixed? Is it worth working with Related? Is it possible, hi baby, to fix Branford? Related is just here for narcissistic supply. That's all they're here for. And people, no, we don't have the autopsy report, but people are already gone. So I apologize, I got a little distracted, but I hope I spoke clearly enough, because I know I have a problem with that sometimes.
So first, I want to just thank everyone for coming out today to tell us your story. I want to also applaud you for coming forward, particularly in the beginning when there was, a well-warranted fear of receiving a notice to quit, just for coming forward and telling your story. So I definitely want to applaud the courage that it takes to sit here today. I have a question for those who have not returned to their apartments. Have you received like a day that you would return, or is that still up in the air?
I have no idea. I'm still at the hotel. I have no communication with these guys. As far as I know, October 3rd is our deadline to get out of the hotel. My apartment's been locked up tight for 133 days. I don't know what's in there. I'm afraid to go in there. If I go in there, I'm not going to come back out. Not on my feet anyway. I'm not going to live anymore. If I return to that apartment, my kids are going to watch me die. And these guys don't understand that, and they're not taking this seriously. I can't get off the inhalers. I'm stuck on these. I'm stuck on these pills. My kids are going to watch me die. And I'm watching my kids getting sick. And I don't want to go through this anymore. We're not. We're human beings, and we just deserve some decency.
I personally just found out tonight through speaking to the mayor, informing him of how I was doing and whatnot, that my name was on a list and the return date was for October 3rd, but I had no knowledge of it. I just left the office today asking them when we were going to do so. Like I said before, I had knee surgery. I'm still in recovery, so it takes some time for me to prepare. But I found out tonight that that's the date. I did not hear that from Related, but I did hear tonight that October 3rd is the day. And like she said, I can't go back.
Right. Okay, and then for those who have already returned, and you noticed that there was still problems present, has there been any communication for that? Any dialogue on how to fix the still occurring problems?
Well, today I went to the office to do other paperwork with them, and I asked them, because they were supposed to come into my apartment to do minor repairs on Friday, nothing involving the mold. And when I asked them when are they going to start moving forward, we can't discuss that. We don't have any answers. With the minor repairs, these are things that I've requested a year ago that they're now just getting to. But to touch subject about returning back to the home, they go back to the home, they're gonna be very sick. The first day I entered my home, I was sick immediately within 30 minutes of being in the house. I couldn't breathe. That night I did not sleep at all, actually. And when I say I couldn't even collect my thoughts, like my brain was foggy. So these are the things that they're gonna walk into. And the smell of mold and urine, cat urine, when I came home that day, we had to sleep with all our windows open, even downstairs. And I live in the back where I don't feel it's safe for us to sleep with our windows open because there have been issues before where people have tried to break in. So I'm at the creek. We have homeless people living in the creek. So yeah, I was very fearful to sleep with the windows open, but we had no choice. And we did that for almost a week of sleeping with all the windows open. So that's what they're gonna return back to.
I do want to emphasize that we did hear at the beginning when they first started moving people into hotels is that they weren't going to remediate any mold until they inspected all the units and then put in a plan of action as to how to move forward. So we're just all going to sit here and wait till people keep dying or something more severe happens?
A child dying.
Mr. Mayor, may I
Yeah.
add something?
Yes.
This evening, my husband went by the house. I was gonna go there to collect some more clothes. And before he could even go in the house, he told me not to come in because he mopped and, tried to disinfect a little bit because the smell is so bad. On top of everything that we had in the refrigerator, everything there now has expired. and that stench onto the stench that's already there is coming out. Our living room air conditioner is nothing but mold all on the front of it. I haven't been upstairs to really see what's on the other stuff, but he had to air out the house and freshen it up a bit. I guess I'll see when I leave here to see how he got things done. But before we do come back, that's something that I'm going to have to do. I'm already an asthmatic on top of me dealing with lupus. I haven't had any flares with lupus since I've been out the apartment. That's the next thing that I'm afraid of, is that my flare-ups are going to be back when I come back.
Right.
The only communication that I've had was when they shut off the water to fix my heater. They shut off everyone's water that was connected to that boiler. They did not give 24-hour notice. So it takes an hour, sometimes more, for the boiler to drain in order for them to do the work. And Kathy called me on her cell phone on speaker with maintenance there, asking to enter right then and there, even though it took an hour for it to drain while people were actively in the shower or needing to make, baby bottles or needing to brush their children's teeth before they get on the bus. They did fix the heater, at least that I can understand, but any further communication, there has been none. But also, I made the comment that I went to grab some of my daughter's possessions. I went to get a few of her clothes and some books. I put those possessions, obviously, in the car to transport to the hotel. The car started reeking. It was smelling up the car because my daughter's all of our possessions, it's on and in everything. When I got it to the hotel, I Lysoled it, laid it out to dry, and opened up the windows in the hotel. Something I meant to briefly speak on, I apologize, is I've lived in HUD housing for over a decade now, first at Frank Chop in Bremerton in Washington State, and then later in Port Orchard at Cedar Heights. At Frank Chop, the bathroom fan is not controlled by residents. It is on all the time, 24/7, even if you turn the light off. No matter if you are or are not in your unit, it is on 24/7. At Cedar Heights, they have ventilation that is installed in the walls, and that work on the outside walls, not the interior walls. If you look up those, it's not ventilation like you flip on a fan or anything like that. It just allows for your home to breathe. But if you look that up on Google, something that will also pull up is a similar application to the interior walls. It's just similar, just different. There are multiple steps that are very, very easy to pull up and figure out, and potentially cheap, that other HUD properties do, except for this one. So if the only ventilation that there is in all of these homes is the bathroom fan that is upstairs, that is only turned on when the light is on. And why do the residents who do not have basements have dirt crawl spaces? I don't understand. I could potentially understand when they first bought the property and it was there and they're like, oh my gosh, well, we're going to take care of this. We're going to take care of a dirt crawl space. We're going to put in this ventilation into the walls, into the exterior walls, and the different kind that's in the interior walls. And we're going to put ventilation into the kitchens. And we're going to change the ventilation in the bathrooms. And we're going to use paint. There's a particular paint that you use when things have been moldy, and there's been new understanding recently, or at least that I understand is new, at least it's new to me, that you don't use bleach with mold. You use either vinegar or Lysol or applications like that. And so all of this information is very, very, very simply out there, not complicated at all. I was the one who brought up the idea about having some of the units turned into temporary housing, but what I didn't understand when I brought up that idea is that they're not going to do any of these simple, obvious remedies. And so my neighbor right here, if she were offered a temporary housing, is she going to be like my neighbor in 155? Is that scary to anybody? I'm scared. And so I also was the one who brought up about, doing things LPLEX by LPLEX, getting things, temporarily shut down by the L's. But why wasn't this done in the beginning? If little old me, who has no college degree, who has never set foot in college school for anything, and technically probably shouldn't even have a high school diploma, can come up with these ideas, then how come these people who have millions of dollars don't have the capabilities to not only come up with the ideas, that's not only the thing, because they can hire people to have the ideas. They don't have the capabilities to do the job that they came to you guys and claimed that they were going to do. All that they are here to do, it doesn't matter what I sit here and say right now. They could be listening in. They could be in the audience. All that they are after is the narcissistic supply. So it doesn't matter what you guys do or do not. If they come interview with you guys again, or that's probably not the correct word. I apologize, but the thing is, I really don't think it's all done down to capability and intent and all of that. So I apologize, I got a little winded.
That's okay, thank you. Just I want to end in front of me. I feel we have a group of very strong community leaders, and I know you're in the process of starting a tenants union, and I just want to encourage you to make sure that gets done fast, because that's just another step. It shouldn't matter, but perhaps it does. It's just another formality that can help you get to where you want to go. So I definitely encourage you to get that done as fast as possible. Do councilors have questions? Councilor Baumgartner?
Yes. Certainly followed your stories over the last few months. As we know, these are not, this isn't new. This has been going on for years. But finally, we've talked about issues that every family in Branford Manor has dealt with for so long, right here in our town council chambers. And again, it's long past time. Quite frankly, it should have happened not only years ago, but while this council, we weren't, nobody here on this council served at the time, but approved the tax stabilization agreement with Branford Manor. And so Again, it is my belief that we ought to hold related in default of this agreement. What they have done is absolutely criminal, as what you have all highlighted. Absolute negligence. And I do want to, as somebody who has observed these incredible meetings that have taken place throughout the summer since the springtime, I would push back on the comment that the tenants union has not been formed. I think if any person has taken the time to, they're taking their Sunday afternoons to go to one of these meetings, you realize that this group has been meeting regularly. They are a tenants union, and no one should lose sight of that. They are an organized tenants union. Anybody who disputes that doesn't know what they're talking about. And so I'm just so proud of you all, proud for you all to speak truth to power. I think many of us, even some elected officials, have a lot of lessons learned from you all. And so I'm so proud of you. I'm here to fight with you every step of the way. Our council, I can only speak for myself, but we have heard your stories, we've heard your cries for help, and if we don't do anything, then we're the criminals.
Thank you. Councilor Kassiri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all for being here, for coming here and telling us your stories month after month and every meeting that you can speak. Truly appreciate you for doing that. I do have a couple of questions for you. Valerie, I just wanted to get a question to you before, if you have to leave. Can you clarify about what you meant that the walls are moving?
Yes, I can send you pictures. Oh. I apologize. I can send you pictures. And you're welcome to come to my home to see. I also have a video of what the, oh, I'm sorry.
No worries. I have children, I get it.
I actually had forgotten that I have a video of what our unit looked like when we first moved in. Not that the video covers that very particular area, but you're welcome to come in person to come see what I am saying, and to also get some pictures. I'm in touch with other councilmen to maybe they can give me your email address, or maybe it's online or something. I don't know.
Can you just help describe it a little bit so that everyone that's watching this,
Sure.
is it like the sheetrock or is it?
Okay, so yes, good job.
Mommy's almost done, sweet girl.
If sorry. If you can imagine what a closet under the stairs would look like, so the ceiling of the closet slants down as, the stairs would go down, and then obviously it would just come down to the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that area of the floor is kind of detaching in a sense. There's space there that wasn't like that, or at least minimally visible like that. When you're in the closet and you don't come out yet, but you turn around, there's growth coming out of the door jamb on the inside that just is growing and growing. I did try to bring it up to the maintenance before, when it wasn't as bad as what it is now, and he was like, oh, that's just like the stuffing, or I don't know, he said something like that, but it's not, because it's growing. And the door jamb is it's not just like a simple crack, it's separating. And my unit isn't the only one. My neighbor with the twins, when I was in her home and I made the comment, I'm worried about falling through the stairs, she said, well, I'm worried about falling through the floor. And she pointed up to her dining room ceiling where there's obvious water damage right there. And hey, be careful, okay? Be careful, please. And so there's just very blatant, obvious. Yes, I would like to show you right now. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. How are you receiving communications from Bradford Manor Preservation?
Does this mic work also?
It should.
Right now, it's previously it was communicated through the one of the maintenance gentlemen, and sometimes it's by cell phone. But I have requested that it now change and for it to go through our attorney because to limit hearsay.
Okay. Is any of it in writing, or is it mostly via phone?
Some of
I do have
Some of us communicate through email with them, but other than that, we've tried calling. They don't answer. We've left messages. They don't respond to those. So it's been down to our lawyer, pretty much, getting to communicating with them.
Could I say something too? They do see our phone calls because I've been told numerous times, oh, we seen you call and we seen that on the call ID. So they're purposely not answering any calls from anyone that has an attorney. If you even get them on the phone by luck, it's, oh, we can't speak to you. So there is no communication at all. And then the notices that they are giving us for repairs, they're not showing up still. It's still the same issue. So nothing has really changed.
Okay, yeah, because my next question was going to be, are you committing your communications with them to writing? So some of them are in emails, voicemails?
Some are in voicemails.
Okay, great, thank you. And my next question was going to be, are you mostly doing your communicating through your attorney now?
Yes, now.
Okay.
I particularly didn't have a choice, to be real, because once they found out that I had an attorney, they refused immediately from that point on to discuss anything with me, even down to like me dropping my rent off. I can't even speak to them about those things, which is weird because I had an income change and had to go through circles just to get that done, and I actually had to pay my rent for that month and then just got it adjusted for the October now. So like that's an issue too, because it stopped me from getting my rent adjusted. So
thank you.
Would you, I apologize.
Go ahead.
Would you like for me to get you the emails that I have between them?
Sure, if you'd like to forward them to me. My email address is the same as everyone else's. It's just m.kasiri@Groton.
Mommy, I want my dog.
Do you still feel like you're being retaliated against when you're making complaints?
I can tell you what I think my form of retaliation is being done to me.
Sure.
Them not doing any work. Them having 2 months of time of no one living in my apartment. I gave them full access to my apartment, told them they can do whatever they need to do. When it came to minor repairs, the major remedy of the basement, that's retaliation. Forcing me to come back to the same circumstances. Retaliation is just not, oh, I have a notice to quit. It's you not actually doing the work that needs to be done. That's retaliation, I would think, right there in itself.
And I would also say another form of retaliation is them not giving us proper notice to fix anything or to even move things out of the way for them to fix anything that needs to be fixed.
Thank you. Is the rat issue new? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, it is. I've lived here for almost 7 years now, and I had never seen a rat until now this summer. And I haven't just seen just one. It's been multiple running through.
Okay, because this seems like a relatively new complaint. No one has brought this up to us before. Do we have any idea what is prompting?
So I mentioned it once before because I actually had took a picture back, it was May or June, of a dead rat, which took the office 24 hours to remove, and I constantly kept calling them and they didn't find it, and it was literally smacking their face. So the rat issue, I've heard rumors about rats being around the rock. I think that's building 31. 33 in that area. I've never seen them until May. May is when I started seeing rats in my L running through my garden. It's to the point where I cut all my flowers and took them out because the rats were hiding in there. So I had to remove them because they were making holes. If you go to the complex in the nighttime, they're running around the parking lot. They're playing in the parking lot while we're sleeping. Like, you can hear them. If your windows is open, you hear the squeaking. And it's not 1 or 2 rats. It's at the very least, 5 to 6 rats at a time running around. Like, they're playing in the parking lot. It's disgusting. They're running on our stoops. They're going into our, like, little gardens. They're everywhere. And now they're digging holes in the foundation of where we're living. So what's next? They're gonna be in our apartments. And as Latasha said, she came back to 4 dead rats. So they've already made their way. So.
Thank you for that. And a couple of you have mentioned that there are people going into your apartments and that even the people in the office are telling them not to. Who exactly is entering your apartments?
It's been going on with my sister, who's not here. She's constantly, through email, through phone calls, even has gone in person to the office and let them know not to enter her apartment until she's home, which she's usually home around 3:30. And still, maintenance have been seen coming in and out of her apartment. Even other residents have told them they're not allowed to go in there, so they started using the back doors so that other residents couldn't see them enter the home. But my sister can more or less knows what's new or if anybody has put anything new. So, yeah.
So it's their maintenance personnel that are coming in?
Yes, it's all maintenance.
Great. And Christina, you said that you were issued a hotel in New London, and that's why you decided to go back. Were you ever offered a different apartment?
They offered an apartment and it had mold. 2 apartments. They both had mold. My attorney actually went in to visually check these apartments and both had mold. So they were moving me from one situation to a worse situation. It wasn't to, like, how can I say, to resolve the issue. It was just, let's just move her out because, let's be honest, they're paying for 2 adjoining rooms. It's myself and 3 kids. So they're cutting the cost by putting us into an apartment in Branford, but it has mold. So it doesn't really make any sense. Okay. I just want to correct something. The reports for those apartments have shown multiple complaints of mold. So they were going to move me into apartments knowing that there were multiple complaints of mold.
Thank you, and thank you for that clarification as well. And has everyone here made a formal complaint with Ledgelight?
Yes. So when I originally left my apartment July 8th, Ledgelight came, I believe it was July 14th. It was Kara. She was actually the same person who returned again when the city inspector came just recently to my apartment in September. When she entered my apartment in July, she was like, I called the office. They basically tried to get her to cancel on me and told her that they started the repairs. So when she came to my apartment, I'm like, they haven't started anything because I have cameras. So motion detected, anything goes in front of it, I know. And she's like, yeah, they told me they started work. I'm like, no. We walked through the apartment. Fast forward, we're in September. She came into my house. She's like, it looks exactly the same when I came in July. So they have not started anything at all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
May I answer that question as well?
Sure.
Ledgelight came to my home and they missed the leak and the growth on the heater and they missed the damage in the closet. When my home was inspected by the first environmental specialist or whoever they were, I offered to move my possessions and told them, feel free to move them if you need to. I offered the same thing to the other environmental specialist and to Ledgelight, but both of these things were missed. I'm not saying I had a bad experience with Ledgelight. You know, everybody's human, but it's still frustrating that 3 agencies missed what was happening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. First off, as you all know, I stand with you 100%. I've been around with this from the beginning, and I continue on any time that I have available to be out there advocating, speaking up, visiting the grounds, driving through, and witnessing the stuff firsthand of the rats running around. And to the question of the rats, what I'm hearing, the rats have gotten even more intensified after they pulled all of the crawl spacing insulation out. The rats had nowhere to be warm, along with the cat piss and the cats that were going under there after the rats. So that's where that's coming from. But my real question, because I know what's going on down there, and I've been down there, so I don't have to ask the deep question because I've been in the trenches dealing with this day to day. My question is, on June 14th, it said, "Thank you for attending." This is from Mr. Finkel. "Thank you for attending the meeting of the whole committee," and it's signed by the town manager and the city mayor, stating these things that they would do. That was part of our packets at one point too. Have these things been done? Communication with the town and city, provided the town and city with documentation and proof of improvements. Has that been done? John, has every item on here been done?
I'd have to see the list.
Would you like to look at it?
I'd have to look through my.
Sure.
I'm not gonna answer.
I'll go through it. They have not been done, from what I'm hearing here. If you go through this list, contacting residents, communication with residents, under that section 1, develop and carry out a plan to improve communication in general. Notify residents of related, relocate them and provide them with hotel rooms, with kitchenettes. As we heard tonight, folks have been without kitchenettes. I attended the Branford Manor meeting with Related, and they stated overwhelmingly, I stood up and spoke and said, how are you putting women and children and families into hotels when they're on fixed incomes, a lot of them? And now they cannot afford to buy food out every day. They need to cook. That's how they can stretch their meals out. I lived it. I know. I was a product of that. I understand what you're going through. And that was going to be done. And yet we hear tonight that people were still put in hotels without cooking surfaces. The list goes on. They're making direct apologies to the residents. Have they apologized to you guys?
No.
Okay, thank you. No. Taking all reasonable steps to address remaining issues. Within the next 28 possible more residents receiving more, have they addressed you to, you're saying?
No.
So we have a document that comes from the city and the town, which John is aware of, and the city mayor who's here is aware of, that was signed. John Burke and Keith Hendrick, social services. Have any of those things come back yet?
No.
Okay. Miscellaneous, reach out to Groton, Falcon. Oh, they did award that to them. That was great. They heard the suggestion that I spoke up about.
But no one mentioned it to us.
Right, exactly. It was a weird $10,000 all of a sudden went to the Falcons. Oh, and baseball randomly as well. Evaluate existing personnel, hire new senior vice president of operations. Did that person get hired yet?
Is that the community manager?
I don't know. Improve the overall culture of the
Counselor's
community.
time has expired.
Yeah, they don't want me to speak.
Yeah, the only thing that they
I'll
have
raise my hand
done
again.
is just put garbages around property.
Yeah.
Lock up some of the fences that we did ask for that now again are somehow broken. Other than that, they've been making holes for new bike racks. It's all stuff on the outside, nothing within
Or
the housing.
underneath.
Right.
Sorry.
Well, I stand with you guys, and I think they should be held in default. We shouldn't be giving tax abatements and at that amount if people are living in deplorable conditions. Where did the money go? Where did the 1.8 go? I'm concerned. We should be concerned as a town.
Thank you. Any other hands? Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. I'll continue. My questions, ensure maintenance staff will adequately train, skilled, and experienced to handle a range of maintenance and issues that occur in Branford Manor. Do you feel like you're getting
No.
skilled repairs today?
No.
No. So another thing not being followed. So this is just a bogus write-off that just gives us a checks and balance. Has anyone checked in on this, John, town manager? Have we checked in to see if these are being done?
Yeah, repeatedly on many of the items.
And so do you have a report on to what has been done yet?
Again, I don't have a copy.
You don't have a
but and I think
Okay.
some of it I've forwarded to the council along the way.
Right, so it has not been met. That's concerning to me, so this is just a blanket push off. And this is, I mean, these women should not have to form a tenants union to get action. These are women that are working, single moms, raising children, low-income families, they shouldn't have to form to do the work of the town and the city. People should be forming a committee and working for them. I implore that this town form a committee that we pay for, that acts as the investigating body, that goes out and helps and supports these tenants and does the investigation work. We should be hiring that. They shouldn't have to form a committee. I'm disgusted. I'm overwhelmed. I feel the pain and frustration and tears of these families up here. Students overwhelmingly from Branford Manor, from families I've spoke to, have missed a ton of school. Health concerns, coughing, it all makes sense now. This has been going on since I was a child. This is nothing new. There's no way that $42,000 per unit was put into each unit only 5 years ago. If I put $42,000 into my house that I bought for maybe $260,000, I would not be staring down the barrel of these types of repairs in 5 years. If I put the money into the infrastructure, like the leaking walls, and not did cosmetic door framing and things in drapes to make it look nice. If they actually took the 1.8 and put the money into the infrastructure, the leaking basements, like the rain that you stated coming in, not the pipes as stated before, these folks and residents that are taxpayers in our town would not be living in these conditions if the money was applied to the infrastructure. Instead, they masked the problem and created more problems. They're moving people in, as was stated, I brought up as well, L-plex by L-plex. You have to go L-plex by L-plex. If you take 2 people out of the place, move them out, and the rest of the 6 units are infested with stuff, you move them out and you move them back in, but you're not doing it in a manner. We have to have a master plan to support the health, welfare, and well-being of our residents immediately. I ask this council to stop allowing these people to come every week and take their time and beg and plead. We should be their voice and advocates. Where are we? We should be asking, what do you mean by your wall, falling down? We should know. We're abating taxes. What are we doing if we're not helping the residents here? I've had enough of it, and I will continue to stand with them, and I encourage that this council calls a default and stops abating taxes immediately for people who are not caring about our most vulnerable residents in our town.
Thank you.
Enough. So we can ask all the questions we want. What are we going to do? What are we going to do here? Are we going to make a motion tonight? I move that we make a motion.
Point of order.
Councilor Parker, what's your point of order?
Councilor's time limit is passed and she's still continuing to speak.
Right, yes. Is there
Thank
any
you for
other
that.
hands?
I had a question,
Okay,
please.
Councilor
Can you
Parker.
tell me what year the Branford Manor was built?
The year?
What year it was built?
No, I don't know the year the Branford Manor was built.
1970.
It's
1970?
Probably 1970, 1974, because I live next door in the condos. So I know there's probably some issues of the building itself. So as you guys are having issues, all of us next door are having issues at the same time. On the same token, we all live by the creek, so that's not helping. There's moisture in the air. So I just had the question about that. I hear your concerns. We all have the same concerns going on in our own homes. So I get it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Baumgartner?
Yes, very
I
much.
just want to say something. So, they were built in 1970 or whatever, but they were built on marsh land, so
Correct.
the land is kind of moving. So yes, the walls are separating and everything, but where you live, does the maintenance go fix your issues in a timely manner?
Each of us either owns, all of us own the home. So
Oh, okay, so it's
on the owner.
different.
It's different. But what I'm saying is, I understand about the mold issues and things like that, and probably the basement issues.
Yeah.
So
I have a video of my basement leaking through the wall if you guys want to see that.
And I have one more question. Some of us do not know when your meetings are, and we weren't invited, because I know there's a council meeting, a council email that could have been sent to everyone. Not all of us have received that information as of yet.
Because we haven't had any meetings as of recently. For one, our kids have returned back to school, so we've been dealing with that and just people being sick. I'm gonna just be honest.
But you guys started meeting in July, or
Yeah.
when did you first have your meetings? Because the rest of us did not know about it.
We started in about June, and both Andre and Portia have been there. and Keith, who's the mayor, and some of the city council as well, and John has been there.
Yes, this information wasn't shared amongst everyone, so thank you.
Point of clarification, Mayor? Point of clarification. I believe
Counselor
those
Parker.
times were set as
One
they
second.
spoke at public comment about when
Counselor
those meetings were.
Bordelon, you don't have the
Just to
floor.
clarify.
Counselor Parker, are you done?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Baumgartner?
Yes, questions about rents has largely, I shouldn't say ignored, but we've focused so much on mold issues, quality of life, health and safety issues, but we haven't really gotten into the finances outside of, some of us making declaratory statements about the tax stabilization agreement. But obviously, your rents are set by HUD. This past year, HUD approved a rent increase sought by Related. There is a very small window for folks to appeal it, an increase, and it was done well before the tenants union was organized and folks started speaking out. Again, this is around the same time when, if you were to speak out, you would be faced with a notice to quit, which is absolutely inexcusable and part of the reason why, there's so many folks came out in droves to participate within the tenants union. So my question is, were each of you impacted by that rent increase?
Well, I wouldn't say I was impacted, but we were never informed that we could even appeal it. We never knew anything about it until it was already passed. Is when we heard, oh, you guys could have appealed it. They never told us this information. This information was never put up. Certain flyers that are supposed to help us are left in the office at a desk that no one goes to the office. They can easily put it in our door. They just started doing a monthly calendar. They could have easily put that in the monthly calendar and said, listen, the rent's going up. You guys can appeal it. Anything that's to help us, they don't give us that information. So.
I wasn't impacted by it, but my sister was, and it's just made it more difficult for her to pay the rest of her bills and to pay for food in general.
As I have mentioned before, I've lived at 2 other HUD locations within this over past decade. So I've only lived here 10 months, so I'm not entirely sure if during this time frame if I did live here or not. But when I lived at Frank Chop and when I lived at Cedar Heights, it was legally mandatory that all residents be given notices that this was happening. I have experienced this before. I have been given options to appeal, and of course other residents being given options to appeal. It is to my understanding that it is potentially they legally cannot move forward unless residents are given notice and opportunity to appeal. In addition to that, I would like to clarify how residents are given notices. We are given papers that are stuck in the door jamb of our outside door that is exposed to the elements. So people are given 24-hour notices of entry or what the heck ever, that some sort of notice that could cover that on why they're sticking something in the door, and these notices are blown away by the wind. They are rained on. Other people could walk up, grab it, and walk away like children just being children, or multiple other things. And so Branford at times can claim that they gave notice when they didn't, and other times they do give notices, but not adequately and not properly and appropriately. And legally, it's not done legally. And so if they not everybody has internet, so if they, not everyone has smartphones, and so where we lived previously, when they would give out those paper notices, the two other locations I lived at had the ability to comprehend the weather and other neighbors or other people passing by, and the wind and things like that. And so one thing, and so they took measures against it. Not to break that down because I get winded sometimes, I apologize, but I hopefully that covered that. Sorry.
Yes. Now, with respect again to the specific rent increase that took place last year or earlier this year, you mentioned a rent adjustment. What were you referring to, Christina?
My income changed.
Income change, okay. And can you lay out that process for the public? So
When your income changes, you're supposed to report it immediately. Due to the fact that I was in a hotel over the summer, I didn't receive the mail in a timely manner, and I couldn't respond to it. So I had to change my income, and being the fact that I didn't give it to the office sooner, I still had to pay my full amount of rent that is on my lease for last month. It's going to reflect this month, it should reflect moving forward. But these are the issues. If I'm not home to be able to check my rent, my mail, how can I even respond to the notices to the office? I feel that with situations like this, they can help us out and, tell us we can credit you. They are refusing to credit me moving forward. So
now the times you spent inside of the hotel, in some cases, a few weeks, in your case, a few months, were you credited for that time?
No. I still pay my full rent those 2 months that I was in the hotel. So I'm paying my rent and no repairs are being done.
And have you shared that information at all with HUD?
This is an issue. I have made several reports and complaints to HUD. They really don't get back to me. I've also reported to 211 when this first started. I've made numerous complaints. I was advised by 211 to no longer pay my rent as of July. I chose to continue paying my rent because of fear of being evicted. I don't want to be evicted. I don't want to give them a reason to even try to evict me for non-payment. I've never not paid my rent. I've always paid my rent on time. So I just didn't want to take that chance. So I continued to pay my rent. I was told, though, that I was supposed to get credited. They did have that conversation with my attorney. It was never done. I was never credited for those 2 months.
And thank you for sharing that.
Sorry, may I expand on something that she said?
Yes.
She said she got her recertification through the mail. The other two properties I lived at, they don't practice that same thing. I find it very strange that this place does. We all sitting here have experienced hiccups with snail mail. It's a part of life. And so other HUD properties do not rely on snail mail to send their residents recertification paperwork. And I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. And I would note, one avenue you all should be availed is bringing forth your complaints to the Fair Rent Commission. However, here in the town of Groton, we exempt companies like Related, where the rents are subsidized in large part by the federal government through HUD. And as a result, you cannot bring any of your complaints regarding excessive rents or unjust rents to this body because of this exemption. It's an exemption that we can change through a change in ordinances or updating our ordinances. This past year, the state legislature updated the Fair Rent Commission state statutes. And we have an opportunity here in Groton to codify a lot of those new changes, codify the language that recognizes tenants unions as an organized body, which is permissible by state statute, and most importantly, eliminate that exemption that permits Related to go around the rules. And so I think it's about time that we take a look at that, and I'll certainly bringing forth that proposal so we can move in an expeditious manner, so that way you all can have an avenue where you can bring forth your complaints outside of the council, but actually bring forth your complaints to a body that actually has subpoena power as well. So I we'll hope that the council will support that, and love to collaborate with the council on language that we can update our
Councilor's
Fair
time
Rate
has expired.
Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor McBride?
Thank you. I just have a question. I don't have any questions regarding your presentation tonight because I think it was very well detailed and you summarized what needs to be fixed. My question to the mayor is, are we discussing other options and thoughts at this time? And should I share any comments I have on the overall process, or is it just questions
Right.
for these individuals?
Yeah, today's just an update from the residents.
Okay, thank you. I'll save them for a later date.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Westervelt?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming out and sharing this with us, and I know you've been doing it all summer long. I'm listening to it, and I am curious to know what reasons we have why we're really not moving towards default at this point. I have to agree with my fellow councilors that this has gotten to be kind of outrageous that we have to listen to these horror stories once or twice a month for the last 4 or 5 months. So I'm curious to get the answers to the questions that Councilor Bordelon's holding and to see what direction we're going to go with this, because I don't see it changing. I do remember reading some of the paperwork where they said they had the ability to properly remediate these properties, and they've never done that. It's in writing from them that they can, but they haven't. And it's gotten beyond the point of ridiculous. So I feel for you. I hope we can help you. And I look forward to the further town council communications on this to figure out how we can fix this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no other hands, I just want to thank you again for coming out. We'll keep in touch, and hopefully we do this in another couple months.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I motion for a recess?
Yes, we'll recess for 10 minutes. We'll be back at 9:17.
Recording stopped.
And you're right, it is getting chilly.
They're all at
Fingernails. I'm sitting here.
You
and
do
I'm,
you, I do me.
shivering, and I'm like, I hope you can't see them.
Recording in progress.
I know who I was calling out.
Shame yourself.
You know what? You are so disrespectful.
Good. No, you're disrespectful.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
We're back from recess at 9:25. On to Mystic Education Center update. And we have Attorney Eric Callahan here for the update.
Good evening. Good evening. Sorry. Good evening, Mayor Melendez and Groton Town Councilors. I was asked to provide an update on the Mystic Education Center. I last provided an update back in late May. As background, there are two operative contracts that are applicable to the Mystic Education Center site. One is a purchase and sale agreement between the state of Connecticut and Ressler Homes LLC, to which Groton is not a party. The state owns the real property. The other agreement is the development agreement between the town and Ressler Homes, to which the state is not a party. The town is still in the dispute resolution process and mediation, which was initiated under the development agreement. That process is confidential and cannot be discussed in open session. If you would like to discuss strategy and negotiations regarding that mediation, it would be my advice to do that in executive session. As far as updates that can be discussed in open session, what we're aware of is that the state of Connecticut and Ressler Homes LLC have met over the course of the summer. The plan is for the state to sell the property to Ressler Homes LLC pursuant to the consideration which is reflected in the purchase agreement. At least it's our understanding that they plan to close imminently. The consideration in the purchase agreement is $1, the monetary consideration, but the other consideration is that the state is selling this property as is to Ressler Homes, and Ressler Homes would assume and inherit all the environmental issues. If the state were to sell the property to Ressler Homes would still have to go through all necessary government approvals, including any Groton zoning approvals. It's further our understanding that Blue Lotus Group plans to purchase Jeff Ressler's membership interest in Ressler Homes LLC, which would mean that Blue Lotus Group, as owner of Ressler Homes, would essentially step into the shoes of the party to both the purchase and sale agreement with the state and the development agreement with Groton. And based on a statement that was released by Blue Lotus Group on September 15th, 2022, it appears that that plan is still the case and that they plan to develop the property in a manner that is different than what's contemplated in both the purchase agreement and development agreement. Neither the town nor myself participated in any meetings between the state and Ressler Homes, and therefore I can't really speak or provide you an update on what was discussed during those meetings. And I don't have much more information, but I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. And I don't know if you wanted to add anything, John.
I was just going to add on, I did reach out to the state today to find out if there's any closing date set yet, and there's not, according to the state.
Okay, thank you. I have a question. So, let me just start my time here. So in this contract between the state and Wrestler, I know we have this agreement with Wrestler, but in terms of specifically the, if Wrestler wants to buy the property, I've heard the state's attorney believes that they can't prevent that from happening. So is that what is their current opinion?
I don't know their opinion on it, but I've looked at the contract myself, and as is typical with purchase and sale agreements, there are conditions precedent within the agreement. The state negotiated a condition precedent which only obligated them to sell the property if they got all of what I'll call the internal state approvals. If they needed approval of the Attorney General or the state treasurer, for instance, they had to satisfy that they received all of those approvals before they were obligated to sell. Respler Homes also reserved a number of contingencies. It's Section 8 of the purchase agreement, which allows them to satisfy in their discretion that they can receive their government approvals, and a number of other contingencies. They can receive subdivision approvals. They can qualify for TIF financing, but those are all conditions precedent that it appears at least that Respler Homes can elect to waive. So if they don't satisfy in their own mind that they can qualify for zoning or get TIF, they can elect to say, well, we don't care if we get those approvals, we just want to close, and we can waive them. So those are all conditions that benefit Respler Homes, which they have the sole discretion to waive. And there is language in here in Section 8D, as in David, that allows either party to terminate the agreement if the approvals are not obtained within the conditional approval date. But that language says it's subject to the purchaser's right to waive the approvals under the prior section. So to me, if the buyer, meaning Respler Homes, waives their conditions precedent, then the state doesn't have the right to terminate if they're still within this conditional approval period, which was extended between the state and Respler to November 13th of 2022.
Okay, and and I've asked this extensively, but just publicly. So the council has no ability to be a party to this decision between Respler and the state.
That's correct. You're not a party to the contract. You don't have, in my opinion, standing to really enforce it. And while you can provide your position on it, you don't have the ability to really have a say. It's really between the state and Respler Homes as to whether they close.
I was just going to go out. You had asked about the state, their thoughts on whether they could get out of it. It was right in the article in the day paper that David Lehman said that they don't believe they have the ability to get out of it. An attorney for the DECD told me the same thing, that they do not believe they have the ability to get out of it.
Okay, so Blue Lotus, they said publicly that if they were able to purchase the agreement, that they would get rid of it. Now, if they were true to their word and they did get rid of the agreement with the town, then they would just be like any other developer. They'd have to go through planning and zoning. They'd have to do all the steps that any other developer would have to do. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then assuming if they weren't true to their word, then I don't think we could necessarily speak publicly about what our options are there, but I'm just assuming that would have to be sort of a legal battle of some sort. But I guess that's not for public comment. But those are my questions, so thank you for answering. Councilor Kassiri?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Have we had any more communication with Blue Lotus?
Not since what I sent to the council a few days ago.
Okay.
And that being that they reiterated that plan, that notice they put out on September 15th matches what they had put out in the newspaper a year ago. And they had thrown out 3 closing date potentials to this date. And then that's why I reached out to the state to see if that was going anywhere. And as of now, there's no date set.
Okay, and have we learned anything more about Blue Lotus since our last update in May?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Westervelt?
Thank you. Mr. Callahan, you said something a second ago that I wasn't sure if I heard it properly. It sounded like Blue Lotus could buy Ressler before they actually closed on the property?
The state has said they won't allow that. Layman has said he won't allow that.
Right, but you said something that was kind of contradictory of that, because I know you said that the state and Ressler are part of the PSA, but you said something about Blue Lotus coming in with Ressler, and I didn't understand exactly what you meant by that.
Well, let me clarify what I meant. What I believe is the plan is that when the state is at the closing table with Ressler Homes to hand over the deed, the transaction between Blue Lotus Group and Jeff Ressler will happen simultaneously at that closing. So once Blue Lotus knows that the state is going to hand over the deed to the property, I believe that their closing will be coordinated simultaneous, where Blue Lotus will buy Jeff Ressler's interest. That's just my, my belief. I don't know that.
That's all I'm asking is what you meant, so I understand that. Thank you.
And I just want to clarify, I was just rereading the comments David Layman gave to the paper. What he said is if they brought in another party, they couldn't unilaterally do that, but I don't think he really spoke to if Blue Lotus became Ressler. So I think he may have left a little wiggle room there, so I just want to point out that.
The next question I have, I think you kind of touched on it a second ago. In the email that you shared with the town council last week, I think it was last week, with the principal from Blue Lotus, and he came back and he said that the plan that you articulated last winter is still what they intend to do. Can you explain that? Because I didn't realize that a plan was articulated.
Yeah, I looked up, there's actually an article in the paper about that plan a year ago. Yeah, it was out there, public knowledge. They put out a release just like they did this time, same plan.
I mean, that he articulated with you?
Oh, it's the same
that's
thing
what
that
it
went out
said.
public. It's the same thing that went out public. He's just saying this is consistent with what we've always said.
And that was a year ago?
Yeah.
It couldn't have been a year ago. I wasn't on the council yet.
Spring or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
All right.
I pulled it up the other day.
I just want to make sure that the timeline's right, because I haven't been a counselor for a year yet, so it had to happen after.
I think it was actually January was the article, I believe. January 25th-ish, and within a few days either way to that.
Okay, and have we had any other mediation sessions except for how many mediation sessions have we had with Ressler?
The ones that we discussed back in May are the only ones that have occurred.
There were one?
Right, there was one on March 3rd, and then another one in, I believe it was somewhere in April.
Okay, and I'd like your opinion on this. There's the good faith wording in the documents. Do you think that Ressler has dealt with us in good faith over the summer? We never went back into mediation. We haven't gotten any reports. We haven't gotten anything from them. Do you believe they've dealt with us in good faith?
Well, that's something I think would be more appropriately discussed in executive session, and that's part of the mediation. So my responding to that has some consequences that would be tied to it.
Okay, thank you.
Just point out the article was on January 25th.
Okay.
The headline being that Ressler has agreement to sell Ressler homes to developers specializing in senior housing, and they go through the same thing they just did on the 15th.
Councilor Bordelon?
A quick question. When did we go into executive session to discuss this property prior to that date?
Say it again?
When did we go into executive session prior to that date to discuss this whole Ressler?
Well, we had different, so I'm not sure what you're asking there. We had
an
multiple
executive
sessions.
session prior to that release, correct?
From in January?
Lotus, yes.
Yeah, probably. We were ongoing.
So how
having-
long have we known about Lotus?
Since shortly before that in January.
Only shortly before?
Yeah.
Like no ballpark, we don't have any dates?
I don't know off the top of my head.
All right, could you get that to us?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to know when you first were aware of Lotus, for the record.
Probably about 2 months before, maybe, yeah,
About
month or
2
two, I don't know.
Thank you. My next question is, to my
Maybe.
understanding, after, well, it would just be good to know for
Yeah.
timeline.
Yeah.
What we have here, in my opinion, and I'll speak for myself, because I can only speak for myself, thank God, is that, again, we have, just like the agenda item before, we have bad contracts that we can't get out of, that we sign into, that we do not properly make sure that we have every protection in place so that we have an exit plan and a strategy, and that comes with good documentations, data centers, Wrestler, Branford. What's the common denominator? Bad contracts. So my question, had we put something in the Wrestler contract stating that we would not allow this to change hands, we wouldn't be in this problem. Is that correct? We'd be dealing with just Wrestler, and they would be able to sell the land, but the town would not be on the line for any agreements in that document. Is that correct?
I think the agreements are pretty standard.
But we could have put a clause in there, to my understanding, that stated that this was non-transferable. Is that correct?
Well, the contracts are subject to negotiation, so.
Correct, and the contract could state.
It requires both parties to agree.
Correct. So we could have put that this contract is only good for you and it's not transferable. Is that correct?
If both parties agree to it.
Yeah, the council
All right,
didn't
so
ask
we
for
could-
that.
right,
The council
so-
did not ask for that, yes.
I wasn't part of the original writing of this. So my concern is that we do not embed any form of, I see like rolling of eyes. We did not embed any form of protection. Why would we allow for this TIF agreement, leasing of the Pratt building, all these other fancy agreements, and then if it falls through, we're the ones stuck holding the bag because the next developer that comes in basically inherits everything that they have. Is that correct?
I don't understand your question.
So let me speak more clearly. The agreements that are in that document, Blue Lotus could choose to enact on if they chose.
And which document?
Oh, the Pratt building, the agreements to lease,
The development agreement.
Right.
Right.
Is that correct?
Though we don't believe it's in compliance with it, I don't think.
It doesn't matter that they could, correct?
If they buy Jeff Ressler's membership interest in Ressler Homes, they would step into the shoes as the party of the
Correct.
contract. Right.
And good government would not allow that. A good, well-written document, a divorce decree, you don't just walk away saying, here's your alimony, and in 5 months later I can add another 5,000. It says this deal is done. And we need to change in the town of Groton how we write our documents. We are willing to negotiate after, but we should not be leaving it open-ended to anyone to fall into those shoes, as you state. And now we don't even know who we're working with. We have an agreement with someone we have never even met, possibly, if this goes through. Why are we not protecting ourselves? There's only so much we can do, and everyone keeps saying, it's up to the state. What I'm here to protect as a town councilor is why are we agreeing to get into agreements that we cannot get out of and protect our taxpayers and our citizens of Groton? That's what we should be doing. And now we have all these beautiful things, the Pratt building, with someone we do not even know.
Councilor's
That's a
time has
concern.
expired.
I know my time's expired.
Thank you.
That's a concern. We can do better here at Groton. We're smarter than this, and we should want better.
I was just going to mention generally, when two parties go into a contract, you make it so you can't easily walk out, either of you. That's standard everywhere. This is a standard contract. We can do differently in the future, live and learn, but it is a standard contract.
How much money are we going to waste to
Counselor
live
Borderline, you
and
don't have the
learn?
floor.
I don't find this productive, and the topic is
Counselor
on the
Borderline,
sale,
you
not
don't-
on the development
Counselor
agreement. So
Borderline,
please don't bring up the development agreement.
You don't have the floor.
Part of the plan.
No, it's about the sale. The topic is the sale.
The sale is our agreement that's
Counselor
going to a
Borderline-
new company.
Counselor Borderline, you
It's
don't
permanent.
have.
It is. That's not
Counselor
what the sale
Borderline,
is.
you don't have the floor.
I'll take my
I believe what the manager is alluding to is that the agenda today is on the sale of the Mystic Education Center from Ressler, from the state to Restler or Blue Lotus.
Point of information then?
Counselor Baumgartner, you have the floor.
My question is, why were we at all alerted of the state's proposed sale by a concerned citizen's email?
We're not a party, so, yeah, someone would have to tell us. So, we weren't in the discussions at all.
So, in a vacuum, the state of Connecticut, specifically the DECD commissioner, despite the fact that the Planning and Zoning Commission emphatically stated that they would not change the zoning for oral school, just is moving forward with the sale for a buck because they feel like it.
I'm not privy to their decision-making process, so I really, unfortunately, can't answer that question.
All right, and so the state obviously has a knowledge of Blue Lotus potentially buying Restler share or buying the oral school from Restler should the state move forward with the sale for a buck. At one point, Blue Lotus was included in our mediation sessions. Is that correct?
We invited them to, not as a party, but to just explain to us what it is that they're proposing to do.
And why were they invited?
So we could understand what it is they're proposing to do.
And the council was informed beforehand, which we've discussed in the past, and then the council later said, let's not have them in the mediation.
Yes, I vividly remember those discussions. I think we were very emphatic in stating that.
Oh, wasn't that an executive session?
Counselor Bordelon, you don't have the floor.
I'm just concerned that we're
Counselor
talking about
Bordelon.
When we come out of executive session, we told them what
Counselor
we were doing.
Bordelon, you don't have the floor.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Counselor Baumgartner.
Yes, we were very emphatic in stating that Blue Lotus ought not to be included in the mediation sessions. And there was a consensus, and if I recall, it was actually unanimous. Back on January 25th, the last time we went into executive discussion on this matter, I believe myself, Councilor Bordelon, Councilor Westervelt voted against going into executive session. And my problem with going into executive session about this is we don't have time right now. We are absolutely under the gun right now with Restler purchasing this property, pristine real estate for a buck. And quite frankly, we don't know who he's going to. We don't know the players of Blue Lotus. We don't know anything. And the fact that we're getting all this information because of Freedom of Information requests, it's absolutely ridiculous. So I cannot in good conscience discuss any of this in executive session. Quite frankly, we owe it to the public who has done more research than I think, quite frankly, all of us combined on this matter. And so if we are serious about stopping the sale, if we want to make it abundantly clear to Governor Lamont, make it abundantly clear to DECD, we need to talk about this in an open session, and the public needs to know where we stand. The problem is the public doesn't know because we constantly hide behind closed doors to talk about this. We cannot do it anymore. So my question to you, Attorney, is, Attorney Callahan, if we do not go into executive session, can we talk about this issue in a way that educates the public so the public knows what they can do to vocalize their opposition against this when our own Planning and Zoning Commission says, no, we will not move forward with zoning to allow this type of this scale development, the development to that scale in their neighborhoods? What recourse do we give the public to know that we have their back?
Counselor's time has expired.
Yeah, so my duty is to the town of Groton, and I'm going to act in its best interests. So I'm happy to have an open session discussion, but it would be inadvisable to discuss strategy and negotiations regarding the mediation or for me to give you my advice in an open session.
Thank you. Any other hands? Counselor Kasiri.
Mr. Burt, when was the purchase and sale agreement voted on by the town council?
Well, the purchase and sale agreement is not approved by the town council. It's between the state and Restler.
For the RFP process for the town?
You mean the development agreement?
Yes, yeah,
Right.
I'm sorry.
That was February 4th, 2020.
Okay. And were certain members of this council a part of that vote that are serving right now?
Yes.
Thank you. Can you just give a brief summary to people that are watching, people that are here, why we go into executive session?
Yeah, there's a number of reasons why you can. The one that is pertinent to this matter is that we're in mediation. There's a strategy that goes along with adjudicating the dispute resolution process under the development agreement, and it would be inadvisable to discuss that strategy in an open session because we're basically breaching attorney-client privilege, and we're tipping our hand to the other side on what our strategy is in the mediation.
So there could be serious repercussions for the town if we were to speak openly about it, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify some comments about Blue Lotus has indicated that they have a separate plan other than what Ressler was proposing, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and we're not 100% sure on what that plan was, but they indicated that it was potentially going to be senior housing?
That's right. They issued a release that I saw a few weeks ago that confirms that that's what they intend to do.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Westervelt?
Thank you very much. I'm still kind of confused by the timeline because if in January, if I remember the meeting in January, and I will go back and look at it, and if I'm wrong, I will correct myself, that was the first we had heard of Blue Lotus. There was no mention of Blue Lotus before that meeting. So if you knew about them 2 months beforehand, I think maybe we should have known that as well. So that's one question.
And I can't, I just don't know exactly
That's
when.
fine.
Yeah, and I doubt I'll be able to, I may have just heard that, do you remember, I don't even remember when I first heard, do you remember any details?
I remember that prior to the council meeting scheduled that January evening, I don't recall the specific date, but I received a letter at around 6
It was
p.m.
like right before, wasn't it?
that
Okay,
night,
so never mind, it wasn't 2 months before.
that put down on paper that there was Blue Lotus Group involved. We may have heard within the weeks prior some rumors there was some other entity, but that was the first I saw it on paper, that there was this other entity involved.
Well, that's what I recalled, so I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing something.
Yeah, so much has gone on with this, I forget. So.
I forget things all the time. Am I able to make a motion?
Oh, let me check.
You need a 2/3 vote.
How is it
Put
in
on
there?
the agenda first.
Okay, so, let me start your time. So I've asked about this. It's in the agenda as an update, so that speaks to the public that we won't be voting on anything. So there's no, you can, but you'd have to vote, make a motion to suspend the rules, get 2/3 to put it on the agenda so that you can vote. Because as the agenda is presented, just like with the voter registration and also Branford as updates, it tells the public that there won't be a decision made today. It's just an update. So that's the long answer. Short answer, make a motion to suspend the rules to add it to the agenda. But I will just say that there may be people who didn't watch because there was no motion, but that's for you to decide.
I make a motion to suspend the rules of the 33rd Town Council.
Second.
Okay, so I got a motion to suspend the rules by Councilor Westervelt,
So you need 5 people.
seconded by Baumgartner. We have 8 present, so we'll need 5 of 8, I believe.
Yeah, because if you, at 9, you would need 6, but at 8, you still need 5, right?
Yeah. Oh, 2/3? 6, 7, 8. I think you need 6.
Yes.
You need 6.
Yep.
You still need 6. Okay.
You do need 6.
Okay. Okay. Motion. Council Parker?
Question about the motion, why are we suspending the rules? Do
Because
we have to state that in the?
Probably should.
Okay. I don't know if someone could pull the rules up. I don't know which rules specifically you're suspending, but in the agenda, it's an update. So there's no motion. You can't make a motion in an update.
I got that.
Okay. So I don't know which rule you're suspending in order to add it to the agenda, but
Correct.
Do they have to name the specific rule?
Point of information.
yeah.
If that's the case, how can one make a motion to go into executive session?
The motion to go, okay. The motion to go into executive session is not a,
Action being
it's
taken.
not an action, and also that motion is listed in the packet. So this is just my understanding. This is what I've been told. I don't make any of these decisions. I ask people who know.
I'm sorry.
Councilor Parker?
Point of clarification. I just looked in the book. It says, in moving to suspend the rules, you do not name the rule that is to be suspended.
Okay.
Instead, you describe what it is you want to be able to do that would violate the rules.
Okay, so what he would be wanting to do to violate the rules is to put something on the agenda today rather than, I don't know, I think you need 24 hours in advance.
His motion needs to speak to that as
Okay.
he's moving it.
Okay. Councilor Westervelt, would you like to say something to the effect?
Actually, I have a question first. What did we do last week? Didn't we have to suspend the town, or we were supposed to suspend before we made the vote on the raise for the chief and that other thing?
No, it was in the agenda packet.
It was on the agenda that we were going to
Yep.
do that? Okay. So I would like to suspend the rules. The reason for my motion is I would like to discuss a motion concerning the developers agreement and our position with the developers agreement.
Okay. And Baumgartner, you're still seconding that?
Yes.
Okay. So, is this debatable? I gotta check if this is debatable. Motion to suspend the rules is debatable. Councilor Parker, do you know?
It's not debated.
Not debatable.
Either amend or nor debated.
Okay, not debatable. So we will vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Councilor Franco, how do you vote?
Against.
Okay. So that fails 3 in favor, Westervelt, Bordelon, Baumgartner, 5 opposed, 0 abstaining. Okay. So I guess I'll just speak on this again. I anticipated that a counselor would want to make a motion, and I understand where that's coming from, honestly. Few of us counselors were on this council when this was passed. All the new people are sort of innocent of any blame. But there are some of us who were on the previous council and voted to go into this. And unfortunately, it went south for sure. And I think everybody knows that and everybody understands that. All I can do is listen to our attorney. If his opinion is that we have no action we have no action available to us in this agreement, then that's what I have to know. I'm not an attorney. I just listen to the professionals. So I don't think the council has any action that they can take up today, and perhaps we expect Ressler or Lotus to execute this purchase and sales agreement, and I think that after that happens, that's when the council is going to be able to make their wants known. And this is unfortunately the way, I guess, contracts work. So when Blue Lotus executes the purchase and sale agreement, I think that's when the council needs to do what they think is right. All right. Council Bordelon.
I disagree with that, and to say that no counselor up here, even though they weren't on, has no fault, that's bogus. This has been before us many times, and it was stuffed down our throat at the beginning. When I took my seat after David Atwater left, the train was already going down the tracks when I joined. And I met with John Burt, Paige Bronk, and all of them, and they said, oh, if you have any questions, this is the biggest thing, the biggest development. And I said, I didn't smell it. It didn't pass my sniff test then, okay? I met with them, and they said, oh, don't oppose it yet, get to know it more. Like I said, I asked questions like, do we have a first right of refusal on the Pratt building that we're leasing if it was to be sold later? All of these things, and I was told, and honestly, my voice was not really heard. I was point of ordered or shut down or not called on or overspoke. So I just don't think that response respectfully is fair to the public to just say, we'll just let it happen and pass the sale and then we'll deal with it later. As I stated before, we need action and we are capable of speaking up, and you learn from your mistakes, as you said. We should learn from them, and this council has not retracted, even to the point where some people weren't even going to be back up here because of the oral school. I feel it's imperative that we do something. We have an action, we have a voice. To say that it's not on the agenda, that we're going to speak about the update of the education center, that's a broad statement to say that the whole agreement is not under that. To say that we're going to talk about the update with this thing and the sale includes the agreement that Blue Lotus will take on, that we will be in contract with. It is a concern that we are going to be in contract with a company that we do not know because the protections were not put in on the front end. Why do we continue like this? How is it that we have contracts and deals with people that we don't know? It might not be Blue Lotus. It could be someone else by tomorrow. We don't even know. Our development RFP, which I said on the record before, is not strong enough, and I don't know how we continue as a town with all the different things from the fields that were supposed to be at the middle school, that bad deal that we had to go back up and rewrite 10 times. Something's wrong here. And if we're not concerned and we're just going to roll over, as you state, and just let the sale happen and not have a voice here in Groton, we learn from our mistakes, but we speak up and we advocate for our community. And that's what I'm going to do. So I am opposed to anything other than that. I'm opposed to this contract just rolling over to someone else, and we don't know what we're going to be dealt. Now, John stated on the record, oh, well, they might not want to be in agreement with the Pratt. We don't know anything. How can we move forward like this? How come we're not writing a joint letter from the town council stating that we do not agree with the sale of that land for $1? And we can write it as a council. We can say that Blue Lotus, if you get this contract, that we are not going to negotiate with you. We can say that. Everyone's afraid
Councilor's
of
time has
litigation.
expired.
You said it with Branford. It all comes down to money.
Councilor's time has
It was
expired.
money when we got into the deal that we thought we were going to be taking in. It's money on the way out
Councilor's
that we're
time
going to
has
lose.
expired.
We need to act now.
Councilor's time has expired.
It's always expired. So what motion can we put? A point of information.
Council Bordelon, you do not have the floor.
Point of
Okay?
information? Point of clarification. What can I have?
You do not have the floor.
Why won't you recognize me?
You just spoke for 3 minutes. That was your turn. Okay.
I'm not allowed to ask a point of clarification or point of information like other counselors?
So
All right.
So we are here. The reason we are here is to update the public on what is happening with Respler and Lotus and this contract. We're not here to grandstand. Okay, that is not why we're here.
Point of
Now,
order. I'm not granting.
Council Bordelon,
Thank
you do not have
Please
the floor.
don't speak to me like
you
that.
do not
Thank
have
you.
the floor.
Decorum.
You were on the last council, and you voted to put us in this contract just like every other counselor, because that was a unanimous vote.
Do you want me to respond?
That's exactly what happened.
Do you want me to respond?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Melendez, seconded by Kasiri. All in favor, say aye.
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 This is funny.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Scams.
Abstentions?
Opposed.
4 in favor, 3 opposed, 1 abstaining.
You're running the ship.
That carries.
No, it
We're-
doesn't.
No, it doesn't
does not.
carry.
We need 5 votes. Let's carry on with business.
Nope.
Meeting
Hold on,
continues.
1 second.
You need 5 votes, buddy.
Let's go. We have
Roll with it.
meeting to do.
Point of order, none of you have the floor right now.
Ah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the mayor to say. Mr.
So, hold on. We've had 2 rounds of speaking,
That's why they sit over there.
and we are moving on to our
I'd
next
like to make
agenda
a
item.
motion, Mayor. That's what
There's no motion, we already did it. We've had 2 rounds of speaking, we're moving to our next
Love
agenda
our
item.
rules, everybody. Love our rules.
We are moving
Twice.
to the next agenda item.
Point of order.
And the next
of order.
agenda item, the people have left, so there's no other business. So,
Mr. Mayor, respectfully, I appeal the ruling of the chair. That's in our rules.
Yes.
You have to hold a vote if I appeal the ruling of the chair.
Absolutely you
So
do.
we have a meeting to conduct. We have the people's business to
what,
conduct.
okay,
This is a very
so
serious item.
what ruling are you appealing?
You just made a motion, essentially made a statement that we're going to discontinue with our business this evening.
No, we've had 2 rounds of speaking on this item.
And then I also wanted to make a motion.
We already did that.
I'm making a different motion.
No, you have to make a motion to suspend the rules. We did that, we voted on it, it failed. We are done with this agenda item. We're moving to the next agenda item. The people who were here for that agenda item have gone home. There is no other business. So I make a motion to adjourn again. Seconded by Kasiri. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? You're abstaining?
No, I oppose.
Okay. Passes 5 in favor, 3 opposed. Westervelt, Bordelon, Baumgartner, 0 abstaining. We're adjourned at 10:06.